Okay, we will call this special council meeting to order on Tuesday, February the 11th, 2020 at 7:30, excuse me, 7:30. Those in attendance, Kobe Pruitt, Bill Turnipseed, Sue Powell, Heather Martin, Brenda Milligan, and we'll start out with our pledge and the prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Bill, would you lead us in prayer?
I want to pray. Father God, we thank you again for the opportunity to come together as City Council of the City of Danbury. We pray that you will be with us as we go through this training, that we all learn what we need to learn and pass the test. And we just ask that you be with us as we go through the meeting, that we're fair and honest in all our dealings, and we put the citizens first in all that we do. And we're good stewards of what you provide for us. And just thank you so much for all that you do for us. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well, Cynthia said she wants her pins back at the end.
Yes, I want my pins.
She take the test and she turned
I
in.
brought my own. Does it have to be that pen that we use?
No.
Do I have to give you my pen already?
No.
I like my pen.
We're ready, Chief. Go into number one, training session required by Texas House Bill 3834, mandating local government public official training for mayor and council on cybersecurity awareness. And Cynthia's going to join us tonight too. That way she can get hers done, and then we don't have to close down City Hall on the 18th because we'll have somebody that can operate it. Stephen, do you want to take yours tonight too? Since you're sitting here anyway?
I don't know, work the 18th, but I'm off that day that we have.
Then you'll be through with it.
All right. Cybersecurity awareness training. This is put on by TML. This is a required course for all city employees, and it goes over basically what you can and can't do when it involves cybersecurity involving the city. Okay, can anybody answer why are you required to have cybersecurity training?
Because they hate us.
Yes, sir. That's the main reason.
When was this passed?
I do not know,
I think it was
September.
September.
Just this last legislative session.
but this little 1 hour course, be thankful this is all you have to take, because we have to take Interpol, CGIS, TLETs, inlets, and several other things for our cybersecurity training, and the tests are not like this, so where it's going to be like, this is the correct answer. You know, you actually have to sit there and know what you're talking about, because if we release any kind of CGIS information to the general public, that's a $10,000 fine, and you can be fined a felony offense for doing that. So it's not a joke to be messed with. Okay. Personal identifiable information. This is stuff that you need to keep secret. Okay, as secret as possible. Your full name, if not common, like if your name is John Smith, then how many John Smiths are there in the world? So it's not that big a deal. But if your name is Bill Turnipseed not being a very common name, you would probably want to keep that as secret as possible. Social security numbers. When I first got into law enforcement, that was something that we asked people for on reports and citations. After a while, the higher ups were like, "Why are we asking for social security numbers?" That's a number that has nothing to do with anything unless it's the only way we can identify people. Okay, if you have a lot of internet page addresses and stuff like that, make sure you keep them to yourself. Your vehicle license plate numbers, driver's license numbers, credit card numbers, all this stuff is stuff that you need to keep as secret as possible. if you have a copy of your fingerprints laying around, first of all, I want to know why. And secondly, you know, that's something that if it gets out, people can use it to commit crimes and all kinds of other stuff. All right. The public sector has a 13% bleed factor when it comes to distribution of security breaches. Okay. Notice what's right next to it, but has the biggest one. Finance. Okay. That's when you come into credit cards, bank cards, and stuff like that. But 13% is pretty high. Okay. Now, we as a city have to be extremely conscious of what information that we allow other people to have about information that we have. Okay, we have all kinds of sensitive information about addresses, phone numbers, credit card numbers if they pay bills here, driver's license numbers when they open accounts. Okay, that's stuff that you can't just leave laying around where people can see it. You have to keep that hidden. All right. So we have to make an extreme effort to sanitize our area before we leave for the day so nobody can see any of that stuff. Texas is number 2 in the nation, okay, for victims and losses of cyber crimes. Now, what's the first reason that we're number 2?
Her size.
Just the size, the sheer size of Texas always puts us up there in all the crime categories because we're just so damn big. All right, California is number 1, Texas number 2, Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Illinois, Ohio, Colorado, New Jersey. And this is according to the FBI's International Crime Report. All right, look at the loss, $115.7 million lost. That's a lot of money, okay? I don't know how much that averages out to, but it's gotta be, those people gotta be hurting pretty good.
Is that for a certain year?
I don't know what year this was. But what I'm thinking is that they averaged it out and it's an average of every year. Okay, another thing you're gonna learn here is the principles of information security. What is information security? Define the different types of information and what information are you responsible for safeguarding. All right, data classification, sensitive. Data with the most limited access requires a high degree of integrity. This is typically data that will do the most damage to the organization should it be disclosed. Okay, sensitive data, what would that be for like a city?
Account numbers.
Account numbers, what else?
Bank,
Banking information, account numbers, anything else?
For me, building, soon would be like the passwords to the Wells Fargo account because you could transfer money out and stuff.
Anything financial? What about infrastructure? What
The
about
water system.
What about water system? What about stuff like that? You know, just because we're talking about cybersecurity doesn't mean that we can't talk about anti-terrorism and stuff like that in here as well, because if the city infrastructure gets out and somebody wants to do something bad, they can go through us through our water system, through our electrical system, or anything like that we have in place. So that's something else that we might want to consider keeping under lock and key. Okay? Confidential information. Data that may be less restricted within the organization, but might cause damage if disclosed. Okay, what kind of information will be confidential information?
Police officers' home addresses and
Police officers' home addresses, anybody's home address for that matter. Employee files, training files.
The water, where you get your water turned on and stuff, the citizens. info.
Utility bill.
Utility bill information.
like the state legislature voted, and you have to furnish a home address on a council member now.
It's not like that on cops yet. I hope it never gets there, but honestly, if you live in a small town like this, everybody knows where you live anyway. So,
Well, if you own a home, you can go to
CAD and
the
figure
appraisal
it out.
district, get an address.
Yeah,
There's-
CAD.
We just don't make it easy for them.
right. you know, personnel information and stuff that you don't want to keep away from the public eye as confidential. Private information is usually compartmental data that might not cause damage but must be kept private from other reasons. Examples is human resources data, which would be what?
Personnel files.
Training
salaries,
files.
training.
What's that?
Salaries aren't private here, but yeah.
So, proprietary. Data disclosed outside the organization on a limited basis that contains information that could impact an organization's competitive advantage, such as the technical specs of a new product. The city of Danbury now has something to offer that nobody else around here has to offer. Okay, it's public information, but the longer you keep it as classified information, the better off you're going to be, and somebody else can't snatch your idea away from you. Basically what that's trying to say. Okay, and public information. Least sensitive data used by the organization that would cause the least harm if disclosed. Example, data used for marketing and a number of employees. Now, how many of you in here think that everything that we do is subject to public information?
Everything we do, like the city we or the police officer?
The city. And that encompasses the police department.
Not everything.
No.
Not everything, but a
I
huge
don't think
majority
so.
of it.
Okay, what is it that's not covered by public information?
Employee files.
Right, but you can't give out a person's date of birth,
Security number. Yeah, the previous.
email address.
Okay. Are any of y'all under the assumption that everything the police department does is public information?
Oh,
No.
It's always.
Do you know what is public information from the police department?
Well, I know people have
police
put in
report?
Their
a
first
daily
name.
Not
activity.
necessarily.
Daily activity report, we've had people ask for that before, and we had to furnish that.
Who told you to furnish that?
The attorney,
Okay. Not everything the police department does is public information. The only thing that we have to furnish is we have to furnish anything that affects somebody's liberty. Okay. If it's an offense report that names somebody as a suspect, we have to furnish it. If it is an internal investigation, even if no charges are going to be filed and nothing's to be done, that is not subject to public information. Citations are public information. Videos, if they film a arrest, a citation, or taking away of, or somebody in charge of something, those are also public information. But unless it meets one of those criteria, we don't have to furnish everything. Okay, and I don't know why a daily activity report would be public information, but if he said to do it, I'm not saying he's right, but I guess do what your attorney tells you to do.
Another thing is private is like the victims, sexual binders and sexual assault victims. That's always confidential.
You're supposed to come up with a pseudonym for a sexual assault victim. That way when you list that report, some of it is subject to public information, but some of it is not. Like the victim's name is not. That's why you come up with a pseudonym. You put her Jane Doe, whatever, and that's what goes out to the public. Juvenile information is not public information. So just be careful what you tell people they can and can't have. All right, the four main pillars of cybersecurity: machine level, data level, network level, and internet level. All right. The main pillars of cybersecurity: the machine level includes work computers, devices such as phones and tablets, home computers that must be treated with much care as the data they contain. The explosion and the use of personal computers and other personal electronic devices has led to innovations and production increases, but this ever-expanding use also creates potential risks. Now, y'all are not involved in CJIS stuff, but we are. Our department policy says that no personal tablets, computers, stick drives, nothing like that could be used to handle CJIS information. All right. I don't know what the city policy is on personal computers and stuff like that, but it would probably be in y'all's best interest not to allow any work to be done on a personal computer outside of this building. Do y'all do that?
We don't have a policy, correct?
Mm-mm.
I mean, I've made spreadsheets for council and things like that. We don't have a computer up here that we have access to use as council members, as far as I know.
Council's a little different because y'all are private citizens that are elected by the city. You don't necessarily work for the city. So you using personal stuff would be, you just have to maintain your
Yeah, you just have to.
your security. But as far as city employees shouldn't be using any personal equipment to do any kind of work at all. As far as this kind of stuff goes, because
So it'd be kind of like Norma accessing QuickBooks at home. You're
Right.
saying she shouldn't be doing that.
No.
it's not a good idea. I don't know what the situation with that lady who stole all the money was, but you know, what's to stop somebody from doing the same type of thing outside of the walls of this building from home?
Or she has information on her laptop and it's in her car and her car gets broken into, or her home gets broken into, and then you don't know where passwords information.
You know, that's one of the things that we have to look out for with our computers and the patrol cars is, are they going to get stolen? Are they going to get ripped out of the car? Because if they get ripped out of the car, they not only have personal information that's not subject to public release, but they have all the kinds of access that we have to get into that personal information. So, if there's no policy on that, you might look into making a policy on no personal stuff to do city business outside of the city, or even while they're here.
I don't think she does that. I was just giving it as an example, but I mean that's the only one I could think here.
And the other thing with machine level is the machine that you're using, does the machine that you're using have a high enough security level to hold the information that you're talking about? Is it able to protect the information that you have in there? So do you have the right firewalls? Do you have the right spyware? Do you have all that stuff that's supposed to be in there to keep people from getting into it and gaining access to information they're not supposed to have? All right, potential exposures to your organizations. Weak passwords that are never changed allow hackers to access machines. Single word passwords are unacceptable. Antivirus software is not installed or updated. Employees are not aware of dangers lurking related to cybersecurity. Email rules and training are lacking for non-existent clicking on links or attachments. Lack of control. Let's go back to that. Email rules. If you get an email from somebody that you don't know who it is and it's off the wall kind of weird, don't click on it. Just delete it. Okay. If you're expecting an email, then you should know who that email is coming from. All right. It's kind of like, how many of y'all here like telemarketers? Okay. I hate telemarketers. Hey babe, this so-and-so with police supply, we're here selling you stickers for your team. I said, ma'am, did I call you looking for stickers? No, then please don't call me. This lady called me every week, on the week, same thing. And I finally told her, I said, ma'am, please stop calling me. Let me talk to your boss. I put the manager on the phone. The manager was like, well, that's what we're supposed to do. I said, put me on a do not call list. Do not call me back. Okay? It's just ding, ding, ding. And these people with these emails will do the same thing. They'll send you an email it's called phishing. They're trying to get you to click on it.
Well, and they'll send it as somebody that's on your friend list or email list, and then but you say it's, I got a friend named Gary, and it'll come up as from him. Well, I go up there and it looks fishy.
The email's not right.
So I go up there and click on that, and it's never his email address. It's
Right.
somebody stolen it.
It's the Ugandan prince who's trying to give you $1 million.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
And all of them's name is Michael Jones.
Yeah. Lack of control of flash drives or other portable connections. No controls for accessing public Wi-Fi. Is our Wi-Fi here open, or do we have one for the city?
We have Wi-Fi here.
Okay. Is it open?
Is it open, Cynthia?
No, I think it's password protected.
Password. Is it? Okay.
All right. Lack of administrator controls to prevent downloading of apps or programs on the machines. Now, lack of administrator. Who's our administrator, our IT administrator here at the city?
We use ECOS.
Yeah.
How often do they come out?
When we call them.
Swing and a miss. Okay, as far as
Strike one.
the police department is concerned, I just went through a CJIS audit about 3 months ago. Our passwords have to change every 90 days. Our firewalls and our security updates have to update as often as possible, if not once a month. Okay? So if that's not being done, then y'all need to do something to get that fixed. All right? We also have officers that are in charge of what's called it's called SAGI, and another one is called the tactical something guy. But those are the guys that take care of all of our training to make sure we're all up to date and make sure that we don't get dinged when we get our next stuff. And lack of cyber training. Other than this, how many of y'all have had any cybersecurity training at all whatsoever? Okay, where did you get it at?
And then down chemical.
Okay. Probably pretty important over there because that kind of stuff is stuff that terrorists and everybody else can use to wreak havoc on everybody. What about you?
Just a little bit out at the emergency management.
Where-
I mean, maybe 5 minutes at the max.
Yep. You know, people don't think about stuff like this. If you think about how much access you can get to an organization just by digging, all you have to do is dig. You find one loophole in and you're in,
Especially when all the computers are networked together.
right? Which in the city they usually are. So who else had cyber training? Was it this one or was it something else?
It was at work.
And what did they cover?
Oh, a lot about just smart sense.
Common sense stuff?
Yeah, you don't expect an email, don't open it. If it looks fishy, tell IT, that type of stuff.
And those are both good points. If you don't expect it, don't open it.
Well, and also don't use a computer for anything other than work related.
Yeah, business. Yeah.
Because people are at their desk and they're playing around on the internet and you can bring all sorts of shit into work. So you don't use it for anything but work.
Okay, what are the videos on YouTube called?
I can honestly say I've never been to YouTube, so I don't know.
Does anybody know what type of videos those are called? What type of videos are on YouTube? Viral videos. Viral. Okay? Those things carry all kinds of crap. When you click on them, you automatically let all that stuff into your computer. Alright? If you let all that stuff into your computer, you're setting yourself up to have viruses and all kinds of other diseases on your computer that may shut it down. Alright. If you go to questionable websites, then those are even worse. So that's a very good point right there. Do not use your computer for anything other than work-related stuff. If you do, you're opening yourself up in the organization up for problems because your IT guy, no matter how good you think you are, your IT guy's going to come in there and he's going to be able to backtrack and follow you all the way back to where you were.
Well, our company is worldwide and we were shut down in October for 2 weeks because of this. And yesterday they told us what happened is somebody was using their computer to go grocery shopping and they clicked on a major food chain and it had a virus that let somebody in and then we all had to get new computers. Worldwide, we had to get new computers. Everybody.
How much money do you think that ran your company?
Let's say our stock just dropped about 10, 12 points. It was bad. It cost us a lot of money. And 2 weeks across the whole
What kind
world.
of business? I don't know where.
Manufacturing. Electronics.
Electronics manufacturing.
But y'all's stuff is stored in the cloud, right?
No, ours
No.
isn't.
You have
It's not.
servers.
We have servers.
See, so electronic manufacturing. Do y'all make bomb parts or anything like that? You know of?
Bomb crates.
Bomb parts. Bomb parts.
No, now we make the border patrol cameras that mount in back of F-150s. That's what we make now. They're really
That's it.
cool.
You know, that kind of stuff, may seem, inconsequential, maybe not that much of a thing to everybody else, but, when that company took that ding right there because of somebody being
Just looking at a grocery store.
a little less than frivolous when it comes to stuff like this, I mean, that's a problem. And that person, there's no way that person could ever pay back that amount of money.
It was, they tracked it back to her, yeah, exactly who it was.
And she's probably sitting there going, I had no idea.
Right.
And now everybody, just like everything else, Why does it say don't eat the preparation H on the back? Because somebody did it one time, okay? So now you have to take cybersecurity training because somebody messed up, okay? All right, if y'all can decipher that, knock yourself out. That is the weirdest slide I've ever seen in my life. But basically what it's saying is you need to make your passwords complicated. Okay. How many computers do you have, Mayor?
In City Hall?
Personally,
Yeah.
3.
3. Do they all have different passwords?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a problem for me. I go, not because you have 3 passwords, but if I have 3 computers with 3 different passwords, I'll forget all 3 passwords.
And you write it down somewhere. Yeah.
No, I don't write them down. I just forget them.
I'm just thinking of me and my husband, we write them down.
I just forget them. So when I go to log in to do something important, oh, nope, not the right one. Let's try this one. Nope, not the right one. Let's try this one.
No, it
Nope,
locks you out.
locked out. Okay. So I do something that you're not supposed to do. I use the same password on everything. But that's because if I don't, I forget. And I got to get into stuff that's kind of important. So what this is saying is don't do that. And if you do use one password, make sure that it's complicated. Make sure that's something that nobody else is going to figure out. And make sure that you don't share it. Like, hey, my password's, you know, whatever. Hey, can I use your computer? No. Why not? Because I have to use my password. I don't use my password. Sherry Pate was the password Nazi. I went to call her and say, I need all these passwords for all this stuff. I'm not going to give you the passwords. I said, I need to get in the computer, man. So, it took like 5 minutes to convince her to let me get in my own computer. I mean, but honestly, that's all you're supposed to be. So she did the right thing. All right. The data level applies to the quantities, characters, or symbols on which operations are performed by a computer, being stored and transmitted in the form of electrical signals and recorded on a magnetic, optical, or mechanical recording medium. The organization's data must be treated as if it were bundles of cash. Due to the efforts necessary to recreate, if possible, in simpler terms, once it's gone, it's gone. All right. Data level. If you have, you know, very sensitive data, you want to have a really good computer, right? You want to be able to maintain it and keep it. If you're doing stuff that's not, you know, let's talk about it in military terms. If you're basic information or top secret information. If you're using basic information, you don't need a machine that's going to be that crazy, okay? If you're using top secret, you're probably going to want the FBI and, you know, database servers, that kind of stuff to keep your stuff where it's supposed to be. But your data, depending on what you have, is also what you need to be thinking about in terms of leaking that information. The higher the level of data, the less you want it to get out. So make sure that you got to stop sometimes and think. The other thing that we have to worry about in the office, and I've caught myself doing it too, is when you're standing out here talking to somebody and you're talking about something that's kind of in that area, make sure that if somebody else walks in that's not privy to that information, you need to, okay? Because it happens, they'll sneak up to that window up there and you'll be in there talking about something, okay? And you don't want them to hear it, so you got to watch what you're doing. Okay. Potential exposures to your organizations. Employees are not aware of the data created by all organizations and the importance of the data or cost and effort necessary to restore damaged or lost data, if possible, to be restored. Off-site data backup is not provided or backups are not performed regularly. Do we have an off-site data backup? Where is that? What is it? In the cloud? What if the cloud goes away?
I back up my stuff on a little drive every day.
We had that argument many times, Cynthia.
Oh, I don't know.
3 times a week at least up here.
Yes.
Because a lady that used to work here, Miss Gretzer, says that she needs to back up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all on a
Different.
different backup system, right? So that if something's corrupt, if we lose it and she tries to get on Friday and it's gone, then she's got Thursday to go back to. So at least you've only missed one day. But then I get arguments from the other people because they say, nothing can happen to it in the cloud. Once it's in the cloud, we're covered. We're not backing up nothing. So I mean, I keep telling them, I think the cloud could go down.
Everything can fail.
Yeah.
Everything can fail. So if you have a redundancy package where you have something in the cloud and you're also backing it up to something physical like a hard drive, external hard drive, or a thumb drive, that's good. Okay. But again, you want to keep our IT people involved and keep them coming in and doing regular checks on the computers and make sure we don't have any leaks in our spyware or firewall or anything like that.
What Brenda and I learned this last week I thought was interesting, because Brenda and I both looked at each other. The man said it may not even be the city of Danbury they want to have anything to do with the ransom stuff, but they use a city to go out after somebody
Right.
big. So like,
They'll
they don't
piggyback.
care a thing about Danbury, but they'll want to get her RVS system. So they'll piggyback off of us to go into them.
Yeah, they'll use Danbury as a Trojan horse to get somewhere else. Yeah. And that's why we as a city, we as an organization need to be as security conscious as possible. And if you see something that looks out of place, you just stop, call the IT people, say, hey, look, there's something going on here. I don't know what it is. I'm not touching it. And just make sure that we're on the up and up before we go ahead, because if we infect somebody else, then we retain some of that responsibility because we should have seen it coming. Okay. Organization's data is not encrypted to protect from hackers. Is our stuff encrypted? If you have to look around, it's probably not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I wouldn't think so because, what was it, a year ago, we sent out supposedly an email from the city to everybody around us saying, hey, we got somebody stuck in a foreign country and y'all need to help donate money
yeah.
so we can bring
They
it
hacked
back.
us.
I love it when that happens. That usually happens to elderly little old women that send out, oh, Junior's in jail. Send them. But we want it in the form of Walmart gift cards. Grandma's like, well, okay. Goes and orders $5,000 worth of Walmart gift cards and sends them off. Yep. And the bad thing is as law enforcement, there's not a damn thing we can do. There's no way to track it. None. It's just gone. Okay. So, again, as a city, make sure that we're being very security conscious, security aware of everything that we're doing. Because let's say, what's the records retention for what you all do up there, Cynthia?
It depends. Anywhere from 3 years to permanent.
Okay, let's say you have something that's on a permanent records retention file that gets lost and it can't be restored. Then, first couple times it might be, don't do that again. Third or fourth time, they might start getting a little upset and say, hey, look, y'all need to do something different, okay? Because whose responsibility is it for our safety and security? It's ours. Okay, so make sure that we're doing everything we can. So if somebody does come in and say, why do you keep losing information? I have no idea. Look, all this stuff is in place. Okay, so then we don't get dinged. That's hard. Network level is becoming all-encompassing as computers no longer operate on an island, and computers are becoming connected in ways most users do not expect. Potential exposures to our organization are antivirus, anti-spyware, anti-malware software, or firewalls are not effective. Daily full system scans are not performed to find, quarantine, or remove malicious agents from your network before damage is done. Off-site backups are not maintained, and lack of administrative controls of networks. What is our network here? Is it good, bad, indifferent? Kind of normal. What is it? Who do we have? It's AT&T, right? AT&T is pretty good, but again, these computers, some of these guys can sit outside over here across in the parking lot and start listening to what we're saying on the telephone. So you guess, again, if something's out of place, or if you see something that's too good to be true, it probably is. Just get on down the road. But I think the thing that I need to stress the most is make sure our IT people are involved and make sure they get out here on a regular basis. You know, once every 2-3 months, once a quarter, come out here and check everything over. More often than that would be better, but I know that it's a money situation, so if that's the case, then. Do y'all have a contract with somebody, or y'all have just a call?
No, we just, it's like a contract, but it's call as need.
So you only pay them if they come out here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They don't like just show up and run stuff on it.
Okay,
And they can log in and do it
Mhm.
from where they're at.
yeah, that's good. That's what the last couple of cities I worked in had. You just call them when you need them. All right, the internet level. The internet of everything brings people, processes, and data together in a way that was not even imaginable a few years ago, along with all the positives associated with this new experience are the exposures and risks created for you and your employer. Okay, things you don't do on the internet. What do you not do on the internet?
I don't post personal videos.
No personal videos, don't order groceries. What else? What, along the lines of personal stuff, what else do you not do?
Post naked
Credit cards and
pictures.
stuff.
Well,
That's a good, that's not what I was looking for, but I wouldn't mind that. Yeah. No, personal information, all the stuff we covered at the beginning, driver license number, social security, that kind of stuff. Don't put any of that out over the internet. If you do, make sure that it's a secure site. There are ways of doing that. If you don't know if it's a secure site, if your computer, which is probably smarter than at least me, is saying, don't do this, then it's probably a good idea not to do that, okay? This site is bad. I do it anyway, okay? That's where you run into trouble, all right? The internet brings a lot of stuff in, but it also can take a lot of stuff out. If you use any of your personal information, credit cards, anything like that, banking information, all that stuff can be sucked off the internet and be used. Anybody ever been a victim of identity theft in there? How crappy was that experience?
it was Brad, not me.
Yeah.
He told me it was me, but somebody somehow got his information and got a loan.
Yep. We're driving down the road one day in the middle of San Antonio, Texas, and we get a call saying, are you making a purchase in the Detroit, Michigan, Walgreens at the corner of blah, blah, blah? No, we're in San Antonio, Texas right now. Oh, okay, well, so we're trying to use your information in Detroit, Michigan. Okay, so now there's a lot of institutions, most of us probably bank with institutions that have stuff like that, that if it's just an off-the-wall purchase, then, yeah, something's wrong with that. So they'll call you and verify, so.
My husband's got called Woody's Smokehouse. Y'all know where that is?
Yeah.
On 45. Okay. We stopped there and got gas, and within an hour, someone was using his credit card information in Sugar Land at a Walmart. And somehow Amico Federal Credit Union, it pops up that there's no way you can be using the same card this far apart in this short amount of time. So, you know, they called him and said, hey, we're shutting your card down.
They shut our car down the other day because my wife tried to pay off her expedition. Tried to make a $12,000 payment on the expedition, and no, that's not right. Y'all don't have that much money, which we came in as money when I came over here, but it's we were able to do that. But she was trying to make the payment, and the bank was like, no, you don't have that much money there.
So we're overpaying you?
No, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. That wasn't it. Actually, that was what was it? 8 years worth of retirement that I drew to be able to buy the RV and to move over here and all this other kind of stuff. It's like, I really wanted this job. Can you tell that? All right, potential exposures to your organization. Almost all devices are now capable of connecting to the internet, but there are a few controls in some organizations that control how they are connected. Now, is every employee in here able to have internet access? Okay. Does every employee in here need internet access? Okay, so that might be something to think about. Why does everybody have internet access if you don't need it?
Mike could if he wanted to, but he doesn't need it.
See, I understand, like, people in different departments need to have access to the internet because that's where a lot of purchasing is done, where a lot of ordering is done. I get that. But somebody who absolutely has no business being on the internet, take it away from them. Because that's one less person you gotta worry about. It's one less hack, okay?
We're making him take the training because you have to report every city employee, but he technically never touches a computer for the city. But then, you think about that, like Cynthia and Corey, now they read water meters electronically, so someone could hack that. I mean,
I'd love to be able to hack my water meter. Back a little bit. I'll pay as much money. Yeah, watch all them zeros go away. Okay. Public Wi-Fi is used continuously without any concern for potential issues. Public Wi-Fi is real bad because if somebody piggybacks on the public Wi-Fi and you start using your stuff, they'll piggyback a Trojan horse right on in and get your stuff like that too. Administrators do not control or limit access to the internet. Work provided devices are used away from work extensively. We don't do that here. Employees are not aware of potential issues and training is not provided. Well, again, training is being provided now. Everybody knows that this is a potentially ethyl methyl bad situation. You don't want to do it. So basically what you need to take away from here is that if it's too good to be true, don't do it. And if it's not expected, then don't open it up. And make sure you keep all your personal information safe. Okay, best practices for deterring, accessing, assessing, reporting, and addressing threats.
Fast forward to the end.
You passed.
He said it was gonna be quick.
Boy, howdy.
That was, if y'all could have read that before it stopped, y'all passed. All right.
We did.
What is the meaning of a threat? A threat is a potential targeting of a network or system in an attempt to damage, harm, or disrupt its capability to operate. The targeting can potentially impact the confidentiality of the organization's data. Okay. Any threat that we would deal with here would be
There's a threat.
losing information that we're not supposed to let out.
You in trouble now?
That was timed so perfectly.
So, okay. Common sense, if you hear the word threat, what does that mean to you?
No.
Malicious.
Something's bad, something bad could happen. All right, common types of threats includes theft of confidential, proprietary, or sensitive information, modification of existing data, and the compromise of how the data is collected, possessed, processed, and stored, unauthorized access allowing an external user to gain control of the system or block access to data. Now, why would that be a problem here? If somebody got, let's say somebody got into the water billing system, how would that be a problem?
Oh, they could make a big mess of it.
Make a big mess, and what else could they do? What were we talking about just a minute
Well,
ago?
they could get people's
Back up.
driver's license
Back
number.
up my water bill.
Social security number.
We
Oh,
don't
yeah,
ask for
yeah,
that.
we
We
don't
don't
ask
ask for
for
that
that.
anymore.
Let's just say-
Addresses,
let's just
all
say-
kinds of personal
Maybe
information.
Could change where the credit card payment goes, you know,
Yep,
possibility.
that's possible.
You know,
Let's
people
just-
go-
Somebody's credit card
Let's just
numbers.
say that this criminal is a novice, he doesn't really know what he's doing. What's the least thing that we'd have to worry about if he gained access to that system?
Totally shutting it out.
That he makes his bill disappear. His bill goes away, okay? Maybe mom-in-law's bill goes away, okay? Brother Ted, his goes away, okay? At the very least, you're losing money. At the very most, you're gonna be losing a lot of money because he can make the credit card payments go other places. He could do lots of different
You
things.
wipe out your whole system.
You could wipe out your system. I mean, y'all could lose, I don't know how much money we bring in on water, but if it's like molten, it's probably a lot. So bringing a lot of money that way every month. you know. And if they wiped out that whole system for that month, that's a big chunk of money that's gone, okay?
And we do not store credit card information.
No, that's fine, but if they make credit card payments on there, they might be able to,
It's in the system
redirect
somewhere.
we
Yeah,
might
is it in
redirect.
there somewhere?
Okay, what is a threat actor and what are their goals? A threat actor is anyone who tries to exploit vulnerabilities in an organization's systems or users for profit, financial or otherwise, damaging the victim financially or otherwise, damaging the reputation of the victim, gathering data that might be used in future attacks. That one right there. Damaging the reputation of the city of Danbury. How many people, how many good citizens in the city of Danbury would love to see the city of Danbury fall? How many? There's got to be some.
Yeah, so,
Okay, I know there's at least a handful. Okay, there is in every city because there's always those bunch of people who don't like what the city's doing.
Can we name off a few names?
No.
You've probably met some of them.
I probably have, you know, and that's the thing. At the very least, you're worried about looking bad, okay? So if they can make us look bad by doing stuff and by screwing something up, okay, then that's an accomplishment for them. They also might use data that might be traded or sold to other actors. Let's say I'm going after a new RMS system, okay? I'm doing all this stuff over the internet. Let's say somebody grabs that information and throws my highest bidder a thing saying, hey, this and that, and now he comes in with a lower bid and outbids the other guys. Okay, that's illegal as hell, and that's something they could do. All right, and then if they're just acting out of curiosity or malice, they're just trying to hurt the city or see what they can find. Oops. Too much. All right.
gain access to the all-call system and send out
And all call.
inappropriate messages that you can't stop.
Well, let's look at it. Let's look like it in a terroristic point of view. We sent out an all-call. There's an event happening at the school. Everybody needs to go up there and get their kids, and they're waiting across the street at the church with high-caliber automatic weapons, and they start mowing people down.
Oh, that'd go nationwide, quick.
But it is a way to exploit our system against us, though. Okay, if they gain access and do that kind of thing, all right. And if they do something like that, if you want to go to the anti-terrorism part of this, if you look at a small town, how many guys do we have on duty at one time? Most of the time, it's just one. Okay, so they call something at the school. We're en route. I get out. I get shot in the yard. I'm done. Okay, Terry comes out. He's done. All right. They go in. They do whatever they're going to do. The 911 calls go out. It takes an average of 3 to 5 minutes for a response by police to get to that location. In 3 to 5 minutes, how many rounds can you expend? A lot. Okay, so you're going to kill a lot of people, and then in the time, in the other 2.5 minutes that you've done killing all these people, you're going to go get in your little beater car, and you're going to take off, and you go down 2010 or 2000 or 210 to 208 and go out to 2004, and you'll be down the road before everybody knows you're gone. Small towns are the perfect target for terrorism attacks. The only reason they haven't been done yet is because they're looking for that big score.
Right. They want to
They
make
want
the
that
news.
big one. All right.
30
Okay.
seconds of fame.
So, if you think about it, if something like that were to happen here, where they did that, we're done. Okay, they'll get away with it, and they'll go to the next small town and do it again. Okay, and all of that can be done by gaining access to this kind of stuff, figuring out what our schedules are when we're on duty. They see the patrol cars parked out back and go, who's on duty right now? Nobody. Okay, so that's other information. To me, that's security right there too. If everybody can see the patrol cars parked out there, everybody knows nobody's driving around, that's a security issue for me. So, anyway, consider this. The idea of a hacker sitting in a dark room, definitely finding cracks in firewalls and guessing passwords is still valid, but just as often these days the door is open from them. Unsuspecting users, malware sent an infected email attachment still works, despite the best efforts of antivirus software companies to stamp it out. Often that is not needed. However, an email containing a link to a website inviting the user to log in to receive an invoice or other excitement is just as likely to succeed by harvesting that user's username and password on someone with advanced technical skills sneaking through an arcane software vulnerability. Okay. Answering infected email will get they'll send those Trojan horses in every day of the week and grab your stuff. Okay, just be careful and make sure all your spyware and antivirus is up to date, because if not, it's going to make it that much easier to get.
Well, I can see one happening here. I mean, I've gotten a letter on that before when I taught school, because they sent in saying they were like, in our case it'd be TML, and I'm needing a list of your employees and their social security numbers. And you're not thinking, oh wait, this is TML, but it's really not. And then they got breached then.
Yep.
And you have to pay for everybody to have protection for a year.
See, and that's why it's very important that you look at the URLs that are coming in, the actual addresses that they're coming in from. Because if you look at those, it may say TML, but if you look up there, it's not going to be the same one that usually comes in from. Okay, so make sure y'all just pay attention to what y'all are opening up. Information security risks are choices made by an organization in its technology and people, external and internal. Technology, hardware, software, system engineering. Now, technology. What do government organizations always do? Okay, when it comes to buying stuff.
Look for the cheapest.
Lowest possible bidder, right?
Yeah.
Lowest possible
Yeah.
bidder.
3 bids.
Now, lowest possible bidder equals you get what you pay for. Okay, so if you go out and you ask for the lowest possible bidder and you get what you pay for, you may be setting yourself up for something. This stuff is one of the areas where you don't want to skimp and say, you know what, let's actually look and see what the best product is that's going to keep us safe and keep our city out of trouble. Okay. Employees. Now, who would have thought employees' morale would have been an issue here? Okay, if you get a disgruntled employee that wants to go in and hack your stuff and sell off all your information, you know, that's the least of your worries. You don't want them coming back shooting up the place. That's the first one, but they can grab your stuff and sell it to people. The other thing is our tech vendors. If our tech vendors, because I don't know about y'all's, but ours always had to get a background investigation, fingerprints, and all kinds of good stuff before they could even touch any of our stuff. So I don't know if y'all are doing that or not. If not, you probably should. I know.
Y'all did bill when y'all hired ECOS.
Not that I'm aware of.
I know for a fact that before they can touch any of our stuff, they have to be background investigations.
ECOS might do it for their employees. I don't know.
And if they vet their own employees, that's fine, but we'd have to have a copy of it on, and we'd have to know what it was that they did for their investigation and who they did it through, and we'd have to have a copy on file for the state. Okay.
So it says vendors, visitors, volunteers, and contractors. So vendors, we get people up here that sell stuff. We get lots of visitors.
That the visitor part is what I was talking about like earlier. If somebody walks up to the window
Yeah.
and y'all are talking about something that's not necessarily top secret, but it doesn't need to be public information, you gotta kind of cut the conversation and wait till they leave.
Yeah.
That would be how they would gain access.
But volunteers are considered. Well, we don't have enough volunteers, I guess.
If we ever had any, let's say,
Like if we did interns, like we were talking about all those file boxes possibly.
Interns
things
or-
like that.
or if we ever did community service people, they're voluntold to be here, but they're still volunteers. Contractors, if we ever have anybody doing work, like our cleaning lady, that comes in every 2 weeks or something.
Every week.
Every week, she would be considered a contractor. And because she is not privy to this kind of information, that kind of everything on your desk has to be sanitized where there's no personal information on there or anything like that. And she can't step foot into the police department without anybody escorting her. And even then, we probably wouldn't let her in because it's a whole ball of wax that we don't want to get into.
It's probably an area we really need to look at.
Okay, attacks on information security can be defined as any attempt to gain access or control an organization's data or information systems, no matter what the level of sophistication. All right, right there, real simple, real easy. These are the types and the vehicles that can be used for attacks: emails, phone calls, texts, USB and flash drives, the internet, and even letters. Anybody any questions on that? Anybody understand? Everybody kind of got the common sense meaning of attack, right? Somebody's trying to get something by force. Types of tactics used in attacks. Okay, anybody tell me what phishing is? You know what phishing is?
Shoot out a whole bunch of emails or phone calls and some information you get back in.
It's more appropriately called, what's it called? Cash phishing. They just throw out a big web of stuff, and whoever answers, there you go. Now it says you have spear phishing there. I'm thinking that's more of a targeted, everyday, here's your email, answer me, please. Social engineering. How many of y'all have social media? Yahoo. Facebook, Twitter, any of that stuff. Instagram. All of that stuff has its own back doors and stuff. I'm gonna brag a little bit. My wife is probably the best investigator that I've ever seen in my life. She can get a name. She can go on Facebook, and by 45 minutes, she knows your address, your phone number, how many kids you have, what your house looks like. I'm amazed at the stuff she can find online. I was like, good Lord. But we had a truck backed into a lamppost, one of those decorative lampposts that you have. Back then, all we had was the last 3 digits of the license plate and what type of truck it was. She went in there, and within an hour, she knew the guy was from Laredo. This was the license plate number. This was the company name. This was this, this was that. I was like, how did you do that? She's just one of those people who can go in there and find anything and everything you want to know on the internet. So, and she's not the best that's out there. People out there, they can do more with less. So, just be careful. And if it looks too good to be true, don't listen to it. And if it's fishy, then just don't go. Malware, ransomware, that stuff that's hidden inside your emails. That when you open it up, it'll go out there and grab it. Voice phishing, that's the Ugandan prince calling with a phone. This is Prince, Yukonumba, I'm here. I'm going to offer you $1 million if you do this. Give me your bank account and I'll send you $1 million and I'll give you another 5 when I get there, right? Okay. Yeah. No.
Well, the ransomware, that class we went to last week said it's not if, it is what day is it going to happen to Danbury.
Yeah.
That it is going to happen to the city of Danbury. They just don't know the day.
It happens to everybody. See, that I think like that every day. When is this going to happen? You know, I can't take the low road and say this never happened before. Probably will never happen. I'm good. No. Plan for the worst. Hope for the best. Plan for the worst. That's the way that we work. Okay, same thing here. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. Get your stuff squared away to where if it does happen, that you can mitigate what's going to happen, the bad stuff, and have a positive outcome at the end. Okay, malware. Covering software with many names like viruses, trojans, worms, backdoor spyware, and so on is a very common and pernicious. While there are many reputable companies doing excellent work to combat it, it is always true that some get through, especially new formulations that have not yet been recognized. The risk of user aptitude and how to handle attachments comes into play. No attachment should be delivered to an inbox without scanning, and no user should open a document without scanning it again. Okay? If you get an email, your spyware should scan it as it comes in, but before you open it, make sure that you scan it again so you know that there's nothing in it. Top 10 tips for identifying a phishing email. The message contains a mismatched URL. The URL contains a misleading domain name. The message contains poor spelling and or grammar. The message asks for personal information. The offer seems too good to be true. You didn't initiate the action. That's a big clue for me. If I don't look for something, why are you looking for me? Okay, that's the same thing with sales calls. If I didn't call you looking for it, don't call me looking for it. Okay, that's a big old pet peeve of mine. You're asked to send and provide money or payment. Okay, the message includes unrealistic threats. How many of y'all have heard, we are with the IRS, and if you do not pay us this money, we're going to come arrest you? Usually in a worse accent than that. Okay, we had some older people call and says, this guy says he's got a warrant out for my arrest, he's gonna come pick me up. I'll be right there. Hey, this is so-and-so's son. What'd you say? We have a warrant out for their arrest and we're going to come pick them up because they didn't pay their taxes. I said, well, this is Chief Pritchard and there's no warrant out for their arrest. Who? The police? Click! Okay, so just again, if it's unrealistic, we're going to come take your car away from you. Yeah, no, you're not. Okay, if something just doesn't look right, the email includes an embedded link or attachment that you're asked or tempted to open. The last one, if any of this applies, don't open anything in that email. Just delete it and get it out of there. Alright, the common thread to all the attacks outlined previously is the reliance on the user to not question or verify the action requested. The internet was built on trust, with all the threats present today not even imagined when much of the technology at its core was created. Thus, responsibility falls on the user and the organization to employ a sustained suspicious vigilance in any contact. The most powerful key in any security system is the delete key. When a user receives an email that is even a little suspicious, deleting it is usually the best course of action. Where possible, verification by calling a known phone number is best. The email might contain a phone number to call in case of questions, but better for the user to find a number independently if not already known. Again, this is telling you to do your homework on anything that you don't, anything that you think is suspicious. Make sure you call and verify before you make any decisions on it. Many organizations have an IT department, whether a dedicated in-house team or an outside contractor, and they should be utilized as a resource for validation of suspicion. Any IT professional will say that it's better to be asked 1,000 questions about benign material than to have to eradicate one rampant virus. Management should be sensitive to user questions and doubts. Without a full-time staff, management should develop methods for reporting and tracking threat detection. Without that, an organization might be under continued siege without anyone recognizing it, making improvements to defense impossible. If we get one attack, make sure we delete the email and call the IT people to come in and try to sanitize it, make sure we haven't been hit with something else that we didn't notice. Attackers might send out 1 million phishing messages a day at virtually no cost. Failure to recognize even one of these attacks can yield thousands of dollars to the attackers and a blow to the reputation of the organization, not to mention the employee. You don't want to be the employee that goes grocery shopping and loses millions and millions of dollars worth of stuff because they didn't recognize something was up with the website. Users should be aware of how to identify, respond to, and report on threats to information security and suspicious activity. Internal reporting. All suspicious activity should be reported according to your internal policy. I'm guessing that anything like that happens, Mayor, would be reported to you. Anything that happens in the police department will be reported to me, and we'll go after our own way. External reporting, contact all involved parties, contractors and vendors that that we normally deal with and let them know, hey, we might have a problem. If we don't answer your emails right away, just give us some time. We're trying to fix this. Cybercrime must be reported to law enforcement. Now, yes and no. If it's a cybercrime, we do not have the resources to investigate that crime. Okay? And if they're doing cybercrime, basically the way it works is all these phone scams, they're going to hit a number that's a local number that hasn't been used, and that's the number that you're going to see on your caller ID. But that number has been bounced between like 25 different numbers, and you're never going to be able to, we will never be able to bounce that back. Those crimes are the type of fine-tooth comb crimes that the FBI and those guys go to. And most of the time, if it's something like you lost $2,500, the FBI's going to like, shouldn't have done that, and move on down the road. Okay? I would love to be able to do that kind of stuff for somebody, especially the elderly, get taken advantage of, but we don't have the resources to do it. We don't have the ability. The reason why most of them report it to law enforcement is so we can put it out to everybody else saying, hey, this is going on, like the IRS scam. This is going on. If somebody calls you, it's probably not right. All right. Training and policies. Provide external and internal stakeholders with tools needed to ensure reliability, usability, and security. Policies that ensure information security. Vetting of internal and external stakeholders. Employee training programs that meet House Bill 3834 requirements. Awareness-based training. Internal policy training and ongoing training for new exposures as identified. If we don't have any cybersecurity training or policies in place, we need to get some and put them in our policy book. That way, at least there's something there. This type of training needs to be done on a regular basis as new stuff comes up. Not necessarily for you guys, but definitely for all the city employees. And where it says vetting of internal and external stakeholders, like we get background investigations, the city employees get background investigations. City employees do? No? Yes?
You got a yes and a no, I don't know the answer. Cynthia's saying yes and you're saying no.
I don't, because when we hired, the two people we hired, we went through question, interview.
I don't think we did that.
Mm-mm.
I thought I had one done. I got that.
Maybe by the bonding company.
We did on you.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
I'm required to have one.
Right.
So see, that the difference between city employees and police employees is required for police.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to meet this stuff, everybody needs to be vetted, properly vetted, which means everybody needs to be at least a criminal history needs to be ran to where we figure out if they have criminal history or something like that for city employees. And then anybody that we bring in to work on our stuff, any contractors that are going to be inside the office at any point in time or working on our IT stuff need to be properly vetted. That way we can rest assured that they're not going to be doing anything stupid while they're in here. And then once we do have policies in place, we have to train and tell people what our internal policies are, what you can and can't do. That way there's no question of where the rubber meets the road.
Mm-hmm. So like Roger, how he'll always, you just look one day and there'll be somebody working.
Contractor.
Mm-hmm. And you'll go, well, when did that person, whatever. He hadn't done it in a long time, but you just see somebody new show up. So that we need to do some kind
Like
of a
when he's
criminal
working on
history.
racetrack over there.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it cost to do it?
Chief, you do the criminal background history. He has his own systems he can do it through.
Well, not yet, but hopefully.
That's a speed reader course.
Yep.
Oh, it's test time.
Okay. This is an open book, phone a friend, ask the instructor if you want to get the wrong answer. Make sure you fill out everything at the top the right way.
Leave the rest blank.
Yeah. This is a grade your own paper type of test, if you know what I'm saying. Wink, wink, hint, hint. You see where it says original test grade and then corrected test grade?
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna have a corrected test grade.
Because everybody's gonna
Probably
make 100.
So I'll just,
Just fill it in now.
if you do, yeah, if you don't know a question, just don't answer it and we'll go over it.
Department, all.
Will you put utility?
All right,
Utility cord.
okay. Number one, who's responsible for the information data security? Is it the IT department, management, security contractors, or all computer system users?
D.
Very good. Which of the following is a clue to recognizing a phishing email? Link to an unknown website, threats or promises of reward, sender's email address not recognized.
D.
A, B, and C is correct. What does MFA stand for?
Multi-factor authentication.
Right. B boy. Okay, when traveling or working away from your main location, what steps should you take to protect your devices and data? A, do not reconnect or do not connect to free Wi-Fi.
Yep.
When connecting the organization's network, use a VPN number. Make sure no one is reading your password or data over your shoulder.
D.
If you receive a phone call from a stranger asking for information about your invoice payment process, you should provide full and complete answers to all questions. Take all questions down and answers via email. Answer only questions for which you know the answer for sure. Do not answer questions, but take the caller's contact info and consult with your IT department.
D. God, we're smart.
Crucial information about user organization can be gained through a phone call, a text message, an email with no attachments or A, B, and C.
D.
Number 7, true or false. There is no danger related to clicking on internet links or attachments that come to your email box since the organization's firewall and virus scan have approved it.
False.
Rate, true or false. The address an email comes from cannot be faked.
False.
Okay, number 9. If you click on an unknown link or attachment in an email and then wonder what you just clicked, you should wait 5 minutes and make sure nothing happens. There's no need to contact the IT department.
False.
Number 10, when disposing of old computers or other electronic devices, emptying the recycle bin or trash can and signing out is all that is required.
False.
False. And now to make sure that we all passed.
It actually says to wait 5 minutes.
Okay. Number 1, D. Number 2, D. Number 3, D boy. Number 4, D dog. 5, D dog. 6, D dog. 7 false, 8 false, 9 false, 10 false.
We all made 100.
All right. Everybody turn your paperwork into the mayor.
Nope.
Yeah, because we have to,
I took notes.
we gotta get Sue to write City of Danbury on here and a city council member.
Well, I didn't do mine either.
I don't get employed.
I just put an alderman on mine.
Yeah, you can, whatever.
I didn't write on mine.
Yeah, somewhere say City of
That's
Danbury.
pretty good.
Sorry.
Hour and 15 minutes. I stretched that long.
Yeah,
Oh, what
We'll fill mine back.
City
and
council?
I'll finish it.
yeah,
City of
City
Danbury,
Council,
City
City of
Council.
So if I
Danbury.
go to the restroom, I'll take a look.
Does anybody have any questions for me before I get out of here?
But we do, Chief, need to work on a policy on that cybersecurity to put in the emergency management book.
I've got all the cybersecurity policies for the police department that we can just
Right.
move over. I've got it all on a thumb drive, so all you gotta do is go in there and just type in City of Danbury instead of Danbury Police Department. stuff like that.
That's what we need to do. Because like I said, I keep asking if the cloud can't get attacked. And, then all your information will be gone because she's backing up. And that was Miss Gritzer's idea, every day on a different thumb drive. So in case one gets corrupt, then you can go back to Thursday. She said, Belinda, what's the chances of all 5 of them being bad? So you got the cloud and that backup. But all we back up QuickBooks with is just the cloud. And that'd be hard to go back and recreate all that stuff. That's what they're saying on the ransomware. You come in and you go, hey, your cloud's been, and all that's, we're holding it for ransom. Y'all gonna be out $30,000-$40,000
Room or something.
so that you can have access back to pay people and all that stuff.
And as far as the policy goes, I have that. We can get that done. That's not a big issue.
Yep. That's what we need.
And it's a lot more restrictive than it probably should be for city employees, but the more restrictive, the better on IT stuff. That way you don't run the risk of anything happening.
Because see, the training will have to be done every year. And they're gonna open up here in the next few days to where you have to actually go in and report all this and have your documentation. But I appreciate you doing that for us.
No problem. Anytime. So,
Get your water heater fixed.
50-50.
Have warm water now.
Basically, the way it's been working is, if I have to turn the heater on, I'm not gonna have hot water. So if I turn the AC on, then I'll have hot water. So about an hour before I get up in the morning, I turn the heater off and turn the water heater on, and I have a hot shower. It's great.
Okay, we'll wait on Toby Pruitt to come back in. What time is it, Cynthia?
8:48.
Yeah, that clock never moves.
Yeah, that's way what it
I
was.
have enough to change
Losing
the
your
battery.
battery.
All
And I
right, so-
got a chance to talk to Keith Woods today. He's
All right, do we have any council and staff comments? Bill, you want to say?
Well, it'd be a council update.
Yeah, council updates.
So I got I'm the liaison for the library. I got an email from the lady at the library the other day and just gave me an update. They're doing good. They got several programs going on and just a lot of, I forget, 200 and something people in whatever the time span was that came through the door. So the library's getting used. And then on our getting credit cards from Dow Credit Union for Buc-ee's, to use the Buc-ee's. We've got the application in, and I'll go Thursday, and I'll have to open an account for the city. We can do it with $5, and then what we'll end up doing is putting money in to guarantee it. So none of us are guaranteed. I'll sign. They'll have to have somebody sign, but it doesn't mean I'm a guarantor. So I'll sign and take care of that. And when we approved in the minutes, they wanted. I feel. Norma and I did it yesterday because I didn't have all the information needed. So I came up here and we did it online. And the lady called me today, said that we'd asked for $1,500 in our minutes. They don't do them for less than $2,000. So I said, well, and so I decided, I made the unexecutive decision. We'll get $2,000, put the chief at $700, and then Stephen and Cody both at $650 limit on the cards. We can limit them to whatever we want to, but to get them, they don't do any credit cards for less than a $2,000 limit. So, and like I said, we'll go Thursday, I can go to the branch or go to ladies in Lake Jackson, I may just go see her. She said that everything looks good. And they wanted a copy of our, kind of like charter or whatever, Melinda found the ordinance where we started the city. And then, what was the other thing?
The minutes.
The minutes. And I got the copy of the minutes, so I have all that to take. And then what we'll need to do is we need to set a policy for the use of them. You know, pretty simple things like use it for only for stuff for the vehicles and no personal stuff.
Yeah. Won't be like Freeport's. Gonna buy you some energy drinks. No monsters, Stephen.
That's fine.
Brenda, you want to report about the class from Olson and Olson? It was worthwhile, correct?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, we had one lady that was up there, and she said that, you know, we need to start paying really close attention, like the cybersecurity and stuff. And then they had two guys sitting up there that were talking. They did a little skit, and they were talking back and forth. The guy that was sitting over here, he's recording everything, and then goes and turns them in, and turned them into the state. Ended up all kinds of problems for them. And then we did just different city, state, county levels. Yeah.
What training was that?
Olson
The
and
Olson
Olson.
training, it was on,
If you can go, I can already tell you the date for next year. January the 21st is the date. It is worth your time. You get to pick and choose from all the different classes you'd like to take, and you just move in and out. Free breakfast, free lunch, free supper, candy, desserts all day long, anything you want to drink.
nacho bar all
Yeah.
day
Where
long.
they have it?
In Stafford.
They had it in Stafford this
I
time.
gave y'all that piece of paper, but I didn't know, but it was worth going
They
to
went,
for free.
A nacho board?
Mhm.
Them nacho bar. And I mean a real nacho bar.
And Brenda and I sat with, it was funny, a man asked if he could come sit with us, and I said yes, and he sat down with us, and turned out he was from Texas City. So then he and I started talking about all their ordinances that's online that you can look at, and then he is their legal counsel,
Yeah.
right, Brenda?
He said,
So-
oh, by the way, I'm their legal counsel. Y'all need some help, call me.
So then he told me, and he gave us our card, he said, any ordinance you want and you don't have, call me up and I'll give it to y'all.
And he said, if there's something that you're thinking of that you might want, call me. I have no problem helping y'all walk through it.
Yeah.
Just really nice guy.
But Brenda can attest, he was a nonstop eater, am I right?
He got
Was he
there
a
at
big
8
guy?
o'clock. No, little bitty. He's littler than Steven. A little bitty guy. And I mean constantly.
I worked with a guy, he ate all day long, and he was about 6'1", he might have weighed 170 pounds, never gained any weight. But boy,
Well, he got
could put
lunch.
food away.
He got lunch and turned around and went back through the line and got another plate lunch. I mean, there was,
Well, that may all he got, maybe.
And Brenda and I were
Texas
sitting there
City's
going,
where's he putting all that?
yes, but then it said something about, well, it's gonna go until like almost 5, we'll be thinking about supper, and he's like, nacho bar. Like, what? He's like, oh, no. Supper's provided too, nacho bar. So it's worth going to, but it's in Stafford, and all you do is look on the Olson website, and you sign up and it's free. And they give you a little ticket they scan, and it was worthwhile going.
They talked about all the GLOW grants and all the land board.
Stuff that there's no way for the city of Danbury to understand how many policies you need. And Olson has an attorney for every little single
Yes.
individual thing. I've learned that. And when they're just naming out list after list after list of policies you need, I was just going like, oh my good gosh.
And their attorneys, like, they were talking that when you call, you might not be able to get an answer back from yours for 3 or 4 days. They have an answer in 15 minutes because they have special.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And something else that, I don't know if it's proper place for it or not, but, you know, I'm getting off the council, I'm not running again. Gonna need somebody to replace me on the accounts. Need to probably start working on that, 'cause it took a while before, it might be simpler now, but need to find out who's gonna.
It takes a couple of months to get yourself off of there and get somebody else on there.
Yeah, so that's, you know,
Yeah,
We need
because
to start
I'm a
working
signer
on
too.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go to the restroom.
And then the only other thing, anybody else have anything about council updates?
I was
Okay.
gonna tell Bill, thanks for the work at the park,
I just
looking good.
I didn't do any of the work other than George and Roger hauled it all up there, and then, yeah, I should have said it.
Ashley and
Ashley and
DJ.
DJ spread it.
And then what's his name came back and finished it the
Yeah,
next day.
can't think of his name.
Me either. Carlos? I don't know. And then Jesse
Fernando.
Power washed.
Fernando, isn't it?
Fernando,
I think his name.
And then Jesse Power washed the bathrooms for free.
Okay.
And
This is don't kill the creator yet. But what I did was look in Jenny Brogger's computer, and she had an agreement that she created back, I think, about
probably 2012.
12 or 13
We
somewhere
started
in
this
there.
in 2012.
Yeah, and then she worked on it a little bit more with Wesley Baldwin and stuff. And I looked too, and Jenny had downloaded some other city agreements on ball fields, so I printed those out that Jenny had saved on the computer. And then I also went online to look at some that were on there. And this is not written in stone. We've not even voted on it. But you need to be reading it. You need to be going through it and saying, okay, I want this, I don't want that. Because I tried to cover definitions. The term, I put 3 years. I noticed that some of them had 6 years. Some of them had 10 years. So the term, you need to be thinking about how long you want it to be. It might be, I've never been on a softball or baseball board, but you people that have, you know how long their officers are elected for. And if they stay, 2 or 3 years, then you'd want your agreement maybe to come where you got new members and old members on their boards.
Softball does yearly, I have no idea what baseball.
Okay?
Yearly.
And then I went through looking at what the league is to provide, got those ideas off of some of our documents that we have that are legal documents. Then looking at these other things that Jenny had saved, what the city is to provide, that's going to be on that second page. And y'all need to help me think of that, because in one of the agreements that we have, I think it's in a deed with the American Legion, we are to always provide structural maintenance on the bathrooms. That's a given. We are to always provide water and sewer utility services at no cost to the league. We are to always provide water and sewer services at the city's expense to the American Legion Post 501. We are to always have maintenance of water and wastewater facilities to be provided by city workers. I put in occasional mowing with the city tractor because sometimes they do ask. And I put a 3-week advance notice because that's what they gave us last time, but y'all may want something different. We always have to provide, because it's in our agreements when we purchase land from the American Legion and Mr. Frank, we got to always have solid waste collection out there that the city pays for. We have to always maintain that fence, and it has to be at least 5 feet high along the northwest side of the property from spur 28 to the northerly corner of the property. We have to always reasonably minimize the spread of dust from the property onto adjoining land. In one of the agreements, it says we will always provide police protection to be provided by the Danbury Police Department. it says that we will always provide fire protection, and I think that relates back to where the city used to own a truck, but it's in the agreement. So, K, we have to always provide maintenance of roads and streets, include road and street lining, to be provided by city workers, county workers, local, interlocal agreement, or through outside contractors designated by the city. All right. This is where Norma helped me work on L today. I'm not quite understanding about the insurance because we have replacement cost insurance that we pay through TML right now, and what we have is $32,868, and it names the fence and one building, but it doesn't say which building.
It's the
All right.
Bathrooms.
Then okay,
And I'm pretty sure it's a bathroom.
Yeah.
None of the other stuff out there is insured.
okay. Well, we're not really discussing it. Then I put a thing on there for windstorm that y'all might want to think about. And then I put in others as deemed necessary for the utility department. The parking, if you look on A, Sue, Corey told me that you had looked up that ordinance 11-05, so you know it already needs to be revised, right? So you're going to try to come up with something on that?
Yeah, I did last
Yes.
week, and it should be, we're gonna have it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Well, the agenda I got didn't have it on there yet, so I'll go back.
It should be.
Yeah,
You said yes, and I told
right.
Moira,
Or
and
she typed it up, but I didn't see it on there, but I'll look back because I haven't finished that one yet. Okay, and then the insurance, look at that, about what all the league is supposed to furnish, the different leagues. And then the safety, no smoking inside the fenced area of the complex per that ordinance. And I noticed they do have signs over there that say no smoking inside this area. And then I saw on one of the other, from another city where they don't allow alcohol beverages or, forms of tobacco products to be sold in their concession stands.
Well, usually you can't have it on the property if
It's
it's
a
a
UIL.
UIL event.
Yeah, but from the school, when Sue and I went to a meeting, there are people that sit and smoke out in the parking lot, right, Sue? They put their lawn chairs out there, so we do have some smoking on the properties. And we put about the subsurface work, maintenance and repair, put in huge letters about how they need to get building permits and the equipment and need to hire qualified electricians to work out there so we don't get somebody hurt. But this is, everybody needs to look through it and let me know after you've had a chance to read it, what you like, what you don't like, so we could get something narrowed down
And when are we
by
gonna,
next week.
when are we gonna discuss this?
Next week,
Next week.
on the 20th. Right.
We'll probably have a room full of people that night.
Well, no one has this but just y'all, because it's our working thing right now.
But aren't we supposed to put
So-
it on our agenda to have it discussed?
but
Right.
it's just for discussion,
It's
so they
just for
won't have a copy
discussion. They
till.
won't have a copy of this. 'Cause
So I'm
it's-
not talking about this,
Yeah.
I'm talking about just
Yeah,
discussion
it's
about
just
this.
for discussion, correct. But we gotta come up with something somewhere because, when you go out there, people are confused about even who's supposed to furnish the toilet paper, who's supposed to buy the soap, who's supposed to clean the bathrooms, who can park inside, who can't park inside. There's a lot of confusion.
So
And
when we discuss this, are we gonna discuss the parking lot?
everything.
Okay.
Because y'all will say, hey, I want it in, I don't want it in, everything that's on here. Just like we just fixed the water line out there at, by the bathrooms. And then, what was it, last week or whenever they started going out there again, parking, somebody already run over the line again. Because you're parking in the grassy areas
Yep.
inside that heckler loop area. And somebody keeps running over the same thing that we go back and fix every time.
Well, the problem is that nobody marks it.
No, the problem is they're parking in
They're
there.
not supposed to be
They're
parking.
not supposed to be parking in there, period.
So-
They're not supposed to be parking it, and it doesn't get enforced, but nobody marks
Well,
it.
you can't
Nobody knows
enforce,
it's there.
you can't
Nobody
enforce,
cares that it's there.
we're gonna start with this, try to work through this, and then, like I said, just read it. You can tell me, hey, pull this out, put something else in. You know, this is not Melinda's rules. I just try to help come up with a handbook to where we can
A
look at all
starting
these
point.
other cities, a starting point, correct, Bill?
Like you
You
said,
know.
nobody cares that it's there. Well, they'd care if they didn't have water.
But
They
it's,
sure would.
but it's just a starting point, because what I don't like is getting stuff at the last minute, and then you're trying to, I worked till 2:45 last night, and then had to work on it again today. And Mr. Boyd, I guess I need to give you a copy of it too,
Okay.
because whatever we do, we gotta make sure it's,
Andy, mine.
no, I got him one right here.
Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
I was about to say, it's freezing. I was about to ask Bill if he was as cold as I was.
Okay.
So until we discuss this is confidential. We need to keep it just to our
It's for
council.
you.
It's
to
for
make
you,
notes on.
for you to make notes on. Because look, I don't want anybody going out and saying, man, that mayor said this and this and this. No.
Right.
All I did was try to put a handbook using together, comparing like 10 other groups, and try to put whatever they had and they talked about, and y'all got to decide whether you want it or you don't want it. I don't want anybody to go say, oh, she wants this. I just tried to put it together for you. So that whenever Sue and I went up to the bathroom, to the meeting, right, the school was, everybody wanted to know, who's supposed to be cleaning the bathrooms? Because there's a rumor out there that the city's supposed to. And there's a rumor out there that they've been told they can't lock the bathrooms. All that I tried to address in there. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other, but this gives a springboard, like Bill said, to start discussing it. It's just a springboard. Okay, so now we're going to go into,
We have another list to put in there. Okay.
but we're not going to need that yet. Mr. Boyd, we're going to go into executive session, but you want me to pass out the email we got?
Well, the city secretary has asked that the discussion on personnel be in the public portion of the meeting. And she can do that, and so we have to do that. There is a separate executive session under section 551.071 to consult with the attorney. But that's only on certain limited legal aspects of it. In general, the personnel discussion has to be in public.
So that's what I'm saying. Do you want me to give them a copy of the email where she requested for it to be public?
But that's fine.
Okay.
Linda, I have to step out.
Okay. Sue Powell leaving out at, what time is it? 9:08. And Mr. Boyd, do you need a copy?
I've got it,
Okay.
thank you.
And Cynthia, did I give you this copy? Because you have to have it in the packet of stuff.
You gave me one.
Okay. I'll vote on this one, but I'll give you a copy of this. In the morning, I'll print it out. Because I got it saved. So, Mr. Boyd, do we wait till Ms. Powell gets back and then we go into executive session to do number one? Or,
Let's wait till she gets back, but
okay.
let me suggest that if it's all right with the council, that we start an open meeting, and if we get to something that I need to address in executive session for consultation with the attorney, then we can.
So, I have the stuff here. Do you want me to pass out that other email? The very
Okay.
lengthy one?
Yeah,
Or no?
that's fine.
pass them out when I was in the restroom, or are we just supposed to read them?
Is everybody finished reading?
Hold on.
Okay. Okay, since Ms. Martin asked for it to be on the agenda, correct? That's, she would now say why she wanted it on the agenda, or,
That's fine.
okay?
Okay, so I'm gonna start by explaining what happened because a lot of the things in the email that I just read from the city secretary aren't quite factual. I did go into City Hall. The reason I was actually there was to look at the, schedule for the park because I was looking at a date for an event, for the band and because of my duties with them. And I did mention in passing on my way out, had anybody turned in any applications? And Moira said yes. She just had the one. Here's, it was Mr. Alan Brown's. She handed it to me. I was like, oh, okay, that's good. I didn't even really look at it. I just handed it right back to her. And she told me without any prompting from me that she was going to have the chief run a background check on him and any other member of council, or any other member who applied to be on council after the closing date on Friday, and that she had Chief Dyson run the ones from last year. And I kind of looked at her and I was like, what do you mean the ones from last year? What do you mean background checks? I wasn't aware that we run background checks on people that are applying for council. Wasn't aware that that's a requirement. And she said, yes, we do. And then it was, and I was like, oh, okay. And I was just kind of confused, but this is my first term as a council member during an election year, and I certainly don't know everything. So I left City Hall. I did come back that afternoon. But again, you know, she didn't say in there that she had asked Dyson to do that before. So I did come back that afternoon. I did ask that afternoon, what exactly did she mean by background check? What kind of background check had been run on me, and if so, where was it? Because again, I wasn't aware of any county, state, or city ordinance that would require that, and I certainly never signed a waiver when I was running for council to have a background check run on myself. She said that she didn't have the background checks, nor did she know where they were, but she had a piece of paper. I do have a copy of it because I did come back and ask later. It had my name when she originally showed it to me, my name and Brenda Milligan's names, birth dates, voter registration, number. There's a column that says background, PD, INT date, and then another column that says good with a check next to it. When she showed that to me, her explanation was that she had given all of the information to Chief Dyson, our packets, and that he had run some sort of background check, and that she never actually saw them, but he had run them and told her that we were good, and that this was her tracking document. And I was like, okay. I did return and ask for a copy of that document, She did give it to me, and I didn't really realize what she was doing at the time, but asked her for a copy of the document. She pulled out the document. She hand wrote on the bottom, 2620 Kobe Pruitt not on list, but given to Derek Dyson, election 2019, tracking, and then she signed her signature. She then gave me a copy of it. She handed it to me unredacted. I handed it back to her and asked her to please redact on my copy Brenda's date of birth and voter registration, because I didn't know if that's confidential or not. I don't want to take anything out of City Hall with personal information on it. And she did that. I did tell her that I was going to call TML to look into it. I did speak with the county election office. They did tell me that there is no county regulation that would require any sort of background check, and that we don't do that unless there's a city ordinance requiring it. I did talk to TML. They told me the same thing, that there is no state requirement for background checks, and even if there was a city ordinance, people would have to sign a waiver for that, which obviously doesn't exist. I did come back the next morning and speak with Chief Pritchard about the situation and ask him if there was any record of background checks, that he had in, his keeping that might have been passed on to him from the previous chief. He said no. That was even more concerning to me because, again, those are city documents, so if they were created by the city, then we need to keep track of them. And B, those are documents with personal information on any, not just myself, anybody that they were run on, and it's concerning that now those are floating out somewhere, and we don't know where they were. Again, I contacted Melinda, asked that this be on the agenda tonight so we could discuss it. I also contacted the Secretary of State because that was TML's recommendation to do, because of all the legal aspects of this being related to a election. The people that I talked to there were very concerned. I talked to their legal hotline. I was put on hold while they could conference with other lawyers. Their recommendation was that at this point, that our city secretary shouldn't even really be left alone with the election packets, and that this is very concerning on multiple levels, and that we should consider trying to find someone else to handle the rest of this election. I'm not really sure what more remains in this email. I have no intention of sharing anything for the city's behalf. She did ask me why I wanted a copy of her document and what I was going to do with it. And I just told her that I wasn't really planning on doing anything with it. I just wanted it for my records at this point because I felt that was the most appropriate thing to say under the circumstances. And honestly, as an alderman, if I want access to city information, it's not always appropriate. I'm not trying to hide anything, but it's not always appropriate to share why, considering circumstances. I don't feel that at any time I've been, how did she say it? I haven't been verbally attacking anyone, being hostile to anyone. All the interactions that I had with Moira, I was speaking in the same tone I spoke now. Cynthia was in the room at her desk. I don't feel that, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't throwing things, I wasn't threatening anything. I was asking direct questions. She was giving me responses, I'm sure to the best of her ability. And I mean, that's that. I don't think it's in any way attacking or hostile. If I see something going on with a city employee that appears to be outside of the line of what they should be doing or illegal, to calmly investigate that. I feel that that's my sworn duty as a city official to do so. My concern at this point is that we're running a fair and legal election, that nobody feels in any way intimidated to run because they might have things done with their personal information that shouldn't be, and that we do things right, because it's my responsibility sitting in this chair to make sure that the city does things the way that they're supposed to be doing them.
All right. I want to address where it says that I said and go, she said that she was going to do it, best I can remember. I just caught part of it. I was in there signing checks and stuff, and she said something about doing a background check. And I said, well, I don't know if we've ever done them. I've never seen one. I said, I think I said if you're supposed to do them, do them. But I don't, you know, I don't recall saying that we've always done them, because I know I don't have a problem running one on me, but, you know, I don't, recall ever doing them, and I don't recall saying it that way. She may have understood me to say it that way. I don't think you weren't in there were you in there?
Yeah, and I know Jenny used to give them to the chief to check whether it's a full background check or just check to see if they had any warrants or whatever. I remember her doing that, and that's probably why
And she may have, and not like I
she
said, I've
was
never
just following
seen her,
protocol.
heard
That you
anything.
can't do.
And that's illegal.
It's illegal.
I'm just saying, I remember them saying that chief reviews them.
Because that you can't
Okay.
do.
I might presuming
I will
what
be
he
next.
reviews them for, but I'm just saying, I remember that he
When a
would
person
get.
signs the packet that says they're eligible to run, you have to take their word for it.
And if they're lying, then that's on them. That's not the city's.
Okay, I have a couple of things to say on this. First off, there were other people sitting in there. And I did not say, says here, she said, no one had better run a background check on her or she would own the city. That's not what I said. I said, if you're running an illegal background check on me, I can file suit against you and the city. And and I don't have a problem with anybody. And I remember telling her, I don't have a problem with anybody running a background check on me. But I want to know when it's done, and I will sign for it. But you don't just run a background check on me just because you think you can. And another thing is, first off, I did see the log. It was open, wide open, laying right up on the desk, just like this. It was laying right there, and the only thing that was on it were this top half. None of this was down there. So when she pulled it, and then she gave me mine, and it had Heather's information on it, she had to redact it. So,
So does this mean that one was run on me as well?
That's what she
just a minute. So when I seen the one with all the writing on it, I said, Moya, and I talk louder to Moya because she always tells me I can't hear. Now, screaming, Cynthia, was I screaming?
We don't need to make Cynthia get into it.
No, I just wanted to clarify that because she put it in
She's here to
here.
take notes. That's
I
not
know,
fair to her.
but she put it in here that
Mr. Boyd, you haven't seen this document either, right? So after
I
it
have
goes
one too. I
around,
can go get mine.
after it goes around, because this is my first
So,
time to see it.
And then she also says something in here about, where's it at? Oh, and I asked her, I said, if you're gonna run a background check on me, I'd like to see a copy of it. I'd like to know what's in my background. And if there's something in my background check, you should have it done to my candidate package. Should be locked in with it. It's your place to keep the records. So, I mean,
Can I say something real quick
mhm.
about the backgrounds? So I really don't know what's going on. Y'all keep saying background, that they had the chief run a background. If he ran a true criminal history through dispatch and went and picked it up, he cannot give it to any of y'all. If I run one through dispatch on you, you cannot look at it. That's why all our stuff gets locked away. So if it was done, if he actually had them printed out and it was brought over here, then it had to have been shredded.
When they brought over here from.
If he went to the sheriff's department and picked it up from them, and it came back into City Hall, he would have to have it in his possession, read over it, and then put it in the shredder. Because they are not public. Like, your criminal history that we run through the sheriff's department is not public record to you. That's kind
And
of
he
what
would
he-
still
And
have
maybe
to
it's
have a
the
waiver
definition
signed in
of-
order to run one, correct?
That's
That's what TML told me and the
So
Secretary of State.
when we do arrest, we do a full criminal history. I tell dispatch I need a criminal history on so and so. They print it out. I go into dispatch. I sign that I received it. It goes in the report file. The file gets put in the filing cabinet and locked away. That's why all our records are not public record to anybody but us.
But
We've got to go through, like he was saying in the class earlier, we have to go through special training
Right.
to be able to do the things that we do on a computer.
Right, but that's for an arrest, and what we're talking about is nothing.
And well, we do
that
it for
would cost.
employment too.
Correct, but this
So,
isn't the same as that.
I understand, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know
If you did a full background,
If you
or
did a
what
full
background
background.
really means to Moira, or what Derek really did.
But the government code provides that criminal background checking, or criminal history record information, the background check information in the DPS database is generally confidential. And then there is a stack of exceptions about 1.5 inches thick. And I have not had an opportunity to determine, do any of those exceptions apply in these circumstances? I mean, it's truly a massive list.
My concern isn't what's in my background, because I'm not concerned with what's in my background, because my concern is, you know, and if there was a city ordinance that, you know, said that we're gonna make that part of our election process, I would have no problem signing a waiver to do so. But the fact that the county doesn't require it, the state doesn't require it, the city doesn't require it, no one signed a waiver, and therefore any background checks that are run on any candidate, regardless of who they are illegal. And
Well,
Yeah, I don't know where she got the idea to do it last year. I never heard about it.
And, well,
That's the first I've heard about it, so.
first of all, I don't think, I haven't heard of anybody else or any other entity routinely running background checks on candidates when they file. But as to whether it's illegal, that would depend on whether any of that massive list of exceptions in the government code applies. But whether it's illegal or not, it's not required. The way the filing system works is that the filing officer, in our case the city secretary, is required to take the application of a candidate at face value. And the candidate has to swear that they're qualified, and the city secretary has to accept that at face value. She can't just declare that, no, you're disqualified or you're ineligible. She can only do that if the application on its face shows that someone is ineligible, or if other public records conclusively show that the person is ineligible. So there are instances when the city secretary, on her own authority, can simply declare a candidate ineligible. But they're very limited circumstances. And
I don't know, but
it
also,
doesn't require her to run a background check.
no,
but there's background check, the real deal, dig through it, find it, and then there's her version of background check. Maybe Derek just checked addresses for her or something, you don't know what was checked. She never got a copy of anything
She
other
told
than
me-
this log with a check.
she told me in
No,
the
she made that
office,
law.
she told
You're
me
right.
in the office originally, when I was like, background check, what do you mean background check? Her response was, well, he had to check for warrants and things. And that was the statement that she meant to me. It was not just addresses. She was having him run some sort of criminal background check. And I asked her, what do you mean warrants? Because the only thing that could preclude somebody from running, as far as I knew, that you had to sign to was a felony. And so, again, I left it at that and then left and called
Do you
you.
want me now to say what the Secretary of State's office said?
sure.
Okay. Okay, when Heather called me on Friday afternoon and said she wanted this on the agenda, and she told me that she had contacted TML and she had also contacted Secretary of State, I got on the phone with Mr. Boyd, who helped me make this agenda that we have now. And he said, Ms. Strong, we need to do the same thing. We need to contact TML. We need to contact the Secretary of State. So I contacted TML. They wanted to speak directly to Mr. Boyd, so I forwarded him that email so that he could talk with Christy Drake Adams. And then I did 2 phone calls and email to him. And finally, the gentleman called me back this morning. And he said that they were discussing a amongst their whole legal staff in his office Danbury's situation. And he said the filing authority designates the city secretary to collect the filing applications. But we need to think about removing the filing authority from our city secretary, because just from the sound of it, it would be like tampering with government elections. Because when you tell people that you're going to run background checks on them, then some citizens in the area, even though they think and know that they don't have anything in their background, it's terrifying to them. So then they will not put their application in because they don't want a background check run on them. And he said there's a short-term fix and a long-term fix. The short-term fix is to demote the city secretary to a deputy city secretary, and then you have 2 deputy city secretaries, and then you allow the other deputy city secretary to take over as the person who collects the filing applications. But that requires an official action from the city. And then the other is a long-term fix, and that is termination of the employee. Now, I spoke with a man named Chuck Penny today, and he told me that Heather spoke to Lisa Prophet, and I confirmed with her that's who you spoke with. Because he said anybody that wants to discuss this so that they could say their recommendation, or if Mr. Boyd wants to call and talk to him about their recommendation, that was fine. But that's their recommendation. Either do a short-term fix or do a long-term fix. Because it's just sounded like to him it was the tampering with the government election. And I don't know if there's anything else we need to add.
How much training has she had on this? That's a question I've got.
Last year she went
Yes.
she went to the training that Joyce Hudman furnishes, and that is 2 hours, I think. And then we paid for her to go to Rice University, I believe it was, in Houston for training on elections. And then she's supposed to go to another training tomorrow for 2 or 3 hours with Joyce Hudman. Because all they would have trained her on is how to take the application and what needs to go in the application packet. I don't know where it came out about background checks. I don't understand that part.
I don't either. I don't know where she got that,
I'm saying, she probably got it from when she got here. And Brittany, I know, I spoke to Brittany. Brittany and Cynthia, they did it. I don't know if they did it with Chief or how they did it.
You can't bring Cynthia into it.
Right,
You
Cynthia
just
didn't,
now- you're
Cynthia
just now
didn't do
bringing her into
background
it.
checks. Because
That's not
I
what I'm
asked
saying.
Cynthia.
I was saying when
Yeah.
Cynthia was in the office with Brittany. Like she's in the office with Moira.
Well, Moya's in the office with Cynthia, and that's why I asked about something that was wrote right here. And
So-
got told, no, you can't do that.
But Cynthia never handled elections.
She never did. But Brittany kind of did it.
Yeah, Brittany
And I'm
did
just
it.
saying, back when Brittany was here, I know she worked with Derek. And maybe that's how Moira got the information. How do we know how much of a background check Derek really did?
It doesn't matter though if it's a little background
I
check.
can
or a
only
big
tell
one.
you what
I'm just saying, Moira probably did it from hearsay.
I can only tell you what he did, what he told me he did on me. That's all I can say is when and Stephen may have knowledge, you may not have knowledge. Cody may have knowledge, you may not have knowledge. But when I realized that a background check had been done on me, I went to Derek and asked him. And what Derek told me was that he ran me through some kind of FBI program to see like what property I owned. I'm assuming I just laugh all the time because I know Stephen can tell me what high school I went to, and it's not that I've ever said it, but it would have to come out of the background check because Derek told me who here on council demanded that he do a thorough background check on me and that he put me through an FBI database. And he named out the people that told him to do it. And I'll be honest with you, I wrote a letter to the Secretary of State and ask for the charges that Mr. Boyd, because it's on the bills, where he had to look at the data they were taking to him. And I actually wrote the Secretary of State and asked if there was some way that I could make the council members that Derek told me was responsible for doing the background check on me have to pay the city back for the $4,000 that was spent on the investigation. And the only way I could do it is through a civil suit. Well, I'm not going to civilly sue anybody, so I just let it go. But that's what he told he did on me, was the FBI background check.
Well, I'm saying, I don't know what he did for whoever, but I'm certain you ran when Moira was here. No, you ran when Brittany was
I ran
here.
when there was Brittany. That's why I know. Derek told me they did an FBI background check on me. That's what he told me. Because he told me the people that came to him and said, we want this done.
Well, that's what when Moira asked me the other day, I said, I know we did it, and that's because I remember Brittany saying, so.
And Derek did not name Brittany.
But I mean, as the secretary person.
Right. She was the secretary, but Derek did not name that it was Brittany that demanded the background check be done. He did not name her.
Okay, I was just referring that she was the city secretary in charge of elections, just like Moira is today. And so maybe that's how Moira got to do the background stuff.
To me,
I don't know how she would, because Brittany didn't leave that information. I don't know how.
I don't know unless
Me
it's
neither.
in the files for past elections. I have no idea. Or maybe Derek said, hey, remember you got to give them to me because I got to do it. I don't know.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
So, back to the meat of this.
I don't think Moira's doing it to be malicious or anything
Well,
at all. I don't see that from her at
I
all.
don't see a malicious to this. What I see is somebody who did something. If she did something because somebody said, yeah, we do this, and she does or doesn't know, that shows ignorance in her job. I don't care if Brittany did it before. I don't care if the other lady did it before. I couldn't care less about any of that. I care about what Moore's doing because she's the one that accepts the job. If she doesn't understand her role, if she doesn't understand what's encompassing of her job, that's what we need to be talking about. I don't care what Brittany did. I want to know what Moore's doing.
my thing is that no matter what kind of background check was run, it shouldn't have been done. And that she was planning to do it again this year. You know, she had already asked Chief, and Chief confirmed to me that yeah, she had asked him to do it, and he hadn't, thank goodness, because he said he had never seen anything like that done at any other city. So he was, you know, going to ask about it first. My thing is that when I see this, and I, you know, did my due diligence as a council member, and the county office here is saying, you know, if somebody did that in my office, that's grounds for termination. And the Secretary of State is saying, look, this is grounds for termination. I would not even leave that person alone with access to the packets, was what I was told. Like, not just, you know, like, she should not even have access to the packets that are turned in to apply for council. And that TML is basically telling me the same thing. Then I honestly don't see how I have much of a choice of what action to take, because every higher authority above the city is telling me the same thing. And I don't think it's malicious, and I don't like it. But at the same time, her job is to be the city secretary. That's what she's hired here to do. And if every higher authority is saying you can't trust this person to fulfill those job requirements and do that job position, then I just don't see much leeway or way to move anywhere.
What is her hours of work? What is her...
8 to 12 and 1 to 5.
Okay, but
So,
I have a question.
This email is done at 5:44.
That's when I found out about it.
So
Because she,
are we now paying her overtime to do this?
no,
She was off sick.
she was off sick. Heather called me and said, I want this on the agenda for Tuesday night.
I didn't want to wait till the 20th
And
after.
I had to call Cynthia and say, Cynthia, could you please step outside the door and look in the case and see if there's an agenda already there for just training. And Cynthia came back and she said, no, there's not an agenda there for just training. There's not one there because you have to post it on Friday because we're going to have it now. So since there was not an agenda already there, then that's when I had to call Mr. Boyd. And I guess, Mr. Boyd, you started helping me about 3:30, wasn't it? Or
Sometime
4,
Friday
somewhere in
afternoon.
there where we could get an agenda together because of Heather asked for it to be tonight.
And the reason I asked for it tonight was because of, the council packets have to be all turned in by Friday at 5, and then they have to be filed with the county, and all that would have happened before our next council meeting, and the higher authorities above the city were all telling me that this person shouldn't be running our election, given what's going on. And so I thought it needed immediate action.
But my deal is when she was asked about this, she has Joyce Edmonds' office right at her fingertips. She has TML right at her fingertips.
Well, that's what I told her. I said, call
Why
and find
didn't
out.
Why didn't she call?
That was what I
Because she
suggested
knows
to her.
everything.
Because I said, well, you need to call and find out if you're supposed to do them or not, if you're not sure.
If she would have asked me, I'd have told her no. I knew that answer. I would have said no. But I was never asked, I was never aware that she did background checks last year, and she did not ask me anything about this year. Because I would have known that answer for positive.
How much does it cost to do a background check? Let's say
Nothing if you're a police officer.
Chief, we asked Chief that question when he was in here, didn't we?
Yeah.
The city doesn't charge, the county doesn't charge y'all anything for,
No, because it's, and if we had before when we had the Firefox, the Onyx program, we could run ours, we could run them in the office off our MDTs. But you can get online right now and type in a company, and they will, for $39.95 a month, you can run backgrounds on anybody. It's not as extensive as what we can run,
right.
but it'll show arrest records. And what they do is they go through, they take everybody in, they just go through, they'll go through Facebook and just start pulling names, looking at profiles, take that name, that birthday, they start running it through county courts and see if they've ever been arrested, and that's how they build theirs, where ours is built a little bit different. Ours is built on true arrest, true criminal offenses.
so y'all used to have something called Firefox?
It was
Omni?
Onyx, it was the stuff through Harris County.
Okay, oh,
And
okay.
that we used to be able to run, the driver's license stuff through the car, and we could run criminal histories on it too.
Now, and I'm assuming that's what Derek would have run it through, because that's what he told me, that he
Yeah,
had
he
mine
probably
through
ran it on
something in his
computer
office.
In the office,
Mhm.
and all you do is type in name, date of birth. You put the reason, which would be their criminal employment, and there's one other one, our investigation, and you just put the name, date of birth, click which one, and it brings it up. But that's for law enforcement. That's for our eyes only. That's not public. If I were to run you, say, hey, you ask me, hey, can you run my criminal history for me? If I did that, gave it to you, and I got caught, that's felony charges.
So, is it okay for a police officer to do that and then come back and say, green light?
Not without a waiver.
The only way we are supposed to run them from the classes I've taken is if it's for employment, investigative purposes, or an arrest.
But when you do it in employment, you have to sign off on it. And there's a
Yes,
notice
there's
there,
a waiver.
agreement.
I guess
TML told me straight up that the only way that she could run them for this purpose is if we had signed a waiver.
So,
And see, and I signed a waiver, when I worked at the hospital, I signed a waiver to do a complete background check.
so this is the part that we need to be talking about. This is the part we need to be discussing. Let's say that somebody had something and it red lighted, as we would say, thumbs up, thumbs down. What if Dyson had come back and said, this one has a thumbs down?
The only thing that could preclude someone from running is a felony. And like the mayor said a minute ago, because when I put my candidacy in, I notarized and signed and swore and attested that I don't have a felony. And so if it comes up from some legit source, not an illegal background check, but a legit source that I perjured myself, then I can have criminal charges filed against me.
Sure.
But that's not this, TML and the Secretary of State and the county, you know, all explain that's not the city's due diligence, that's not the city's place. The only way that that can happen is if somebody outside the city, a citizen or another candidate says, hey, I have knowledge and proof that they perjured themselves, and then they file against that individual. None of that has anything to do with the city. It is not our diligence, it is not our place to do that. That's not how our system works.
So,
We're supposed to take people's word.
Because you signed and notarized, so it's on you, and if you lied, then the criminal charges are on you. That has nothing to do with the city.
so that's
That's the problem.
what I want to know is if Dyson had come back with something that was not favorable, you know, because I know what my criminal history is like. It's nothing, you know. I have a couple of traffic stops from about 25 years ago, and that's pretty much it, you know. If it had come back and there was, you know, stuff on there, how is Dyson going to relate that back to Mora?
There's
And then-
no legal way in which he can.
Well, okay,
I cannot tell you that because I don't. This is
all news to you.
yeah. I was off when all this came to a head, and I didn't know Dyson ran criminal histories on people outside of what he was supposed to do. I can't say that he ran them through our system because I don't know.
So that's what we need to
The
be
thing
asking.
is, in the government, it's chapter 411 of the Texas Government Code, and it starts out, it says, criminal history record information compiled by the DPS is confidential. And it's against the law to access it except for a legal purpose. And it's against the law to pass it on except for a legal purpose. And it's against the law to receive it and use it except for a legal purpose. And then it goes on that thick of legal purposes. And I have not had, I'm sorry, I have not had the opportunity to see whether any of that thick stack of legal purposes would apply here. I'm not aware of any other jurisdictions or political subdivisions that do background checks, which would indicate
That you don't do them.
there's not an exception in there.
The county, TML, and the Secretary of State said that there is no reason that that should be done.
Okay.
And that background check. The only way that it could be is if there was a city ordinance, which we have none, and even then, a waiver would be required to be signed by the person it was run on, according to TML and the Secretary of State and the county.
All right.
So what do we do with this?
Like I said,
Short term or long term?
to me, personally, you've got the three authorities over us, the county, the TML, the Secretary of State recommending the same thing. If she's not the city secretary, then what you have is an office assistant, and what she was hired to do is a certain job, and if all those authorities are saying that she's not qualified to do that job because of the circumstances, then as much as I really don't like it, I just don't see a constructive way for her to continue her employment here.
Is the city secretary the person that always has to do the election?
Yes,
Mhm.
legally
If
she
you have
has
one.
to.
That's why I said,
Yeah.
could we just let our deputy city secretary do it? And that's what he explained. Oh, no. It is, Texas requires the filing authority to be
So
the
then
city
if-
secretary.
If Moore gets terminated tonight, then we can't have an election.
No, then
No,
the deputy.
Deputy city secretary takes over.
If her
Even if
position is
you-
vacant.
Even if you switch her title down to deputy city secretary, you don't terminate her, but you switch her down to deputy city secretary, you just have your alternative, which is your other deputy
Who
city
has no
secretary.
training.
Mhm. That would get training tomorrow. Somebody's going for training tomorrow, either Moya or Cynthia. One person's going for training tomorrow. You just gotta decide what you wanna do.
Let me ask you something. As a police officer,
I as a city council person, I think in my mind, without any prior knowledge or this conversation never taking place, in my mind, I think this is a good idea. All right? This is a good idea to run background checks on people that are coming in for elections, right? So I come to you and you know, this is past tense, you had that ability, you know, to do this. I come to you and I say, Stephen, we got these 3 people coming in, and one of them looks sketchy. Let's run background checks on them, just to make sure we're not, you know.
Don't sneeze on me.
I'm not going
And at what point in time, after I've said that, what would your response to that be?
My response would be no. I have to have a criminal reason or a real reason to run it, and your suspicion is not sufficient enough for me to run a full criminal history. Now, if I want to run with name and date of birth, just to check locals, see if they have warrants, I can do that to anybody all day long. I can sit in my car and run a license plate and say, Brenda drives by. So, run her license plate. I don't know that it's Brenda, I don't know Brenda. But I run that license plate for Officer Brenda Milligan. I type in Brenda Milligan, hit send, and it'll bring up all Brenda Milligans in Texas. They have a Texas driver's license, and then I just start going through picking birthdays. Oh, and I can do that all day long on anybody, and there's nothing against the law, nothing wrong about it.
But to you,
But to run a full criminal history on somebody through
that would be a red
DPS,
flag to you.
yes, I would not.
But that's doing it in the jurisdiction of your job, which
Yeah.
is being out on patrol. That's not a city employee coming to you with a specific name saying, run this person for me.
And
Yeah,
that's-
even if she came to me, say we didn't have a chief, and she said, hey, I need these run, I would say, I need to talk to the mayor before I do anything like that. I need to make sure that this is okay so I don't get myself in a bind.
And that's the whole point of it, saying like it would be tampering with a government election, is because when word would get out, oh, Danbury's gonna run a background check on you if you put your application in. You see right here, with people on council right here, we can't even come to a consensus as to what a background check is. And that's why people would become afraid to put their packet in, because we don't know what a background check is. We don't know if it's like Steven said, you just putting their name and birthday in and saying, hey, did they have any warrants? Or is it a real criminal background check? We don't know.
To me, it's not a matter of what kind of background check was run, you know, or anything like that. It's a matter of the 3 authorities over election that are above the city are all giving the same advice. And when the 3 authorities over elections in the state of Texas, the county, TML, who we have for legal advice, and the Secretary of State are giving the same advice, and to me, that just, as like I said, Alderman, that does not give me a lot of leeway as to go another way, because if I choose to go another way than what those 3 authorities are giving me, and something else goes wrong, now there's a record that we sat down and discussed this, and we were told, hey, this is our advice, and we chose to go a different direction, and then that's on us. And I don't want to be part of a council or a city that's running elections in ways that they're not supposed to be run.
So,
What was done before I got here was done before I got here. I have no control over that. This I have control over.
when was this written? Did you say she wrote this at the house?
Yeah. Because
Friday.
she called me and said, I want a meeting and I want this on the agenda. And I said, wait a second here. I don't know about Tuesday, because she said I want it on Tuesday, and I said, well, I think we already have an agenda out in the case, and I had asked Cynthia to look and see if we had an agenda out in the case. We didn't, so then our policy says you have to listen to when a council member wants something on there, so I called Mr. Boyd, and that's when we made this up. And then that night, that's the email I got. because I was here in City Hall Wednesday during the day. I was here in City Hall Thursday during the day, and this was never brought up to me. I had no knowledge this was going on, because when she says here that she was talking to Bill and Sue, never talked to me. I had no knowledge at all that this was going on from Moya. She's never even spoken to me about it, even now. I only have had emails. Like that document you saw that Heather had, I'd never seen that till it just got passed out.
So is this email that she's writing from,
Mm-hmm.
this is the city email, right? This is city email that she uses?
Mm-hmm.
So is she accessing her city email at her house? Is she taking a city computer home?
She doesn't have a city computer. We don't have anything like that.
So how is she doing this at the house? How is she accessing the city email at her house?
She logs into her account.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it
It's
is.
just like a Gmail account that
It's
you
just a regular.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's a city business account, right? It's
Right.
all
It's
of our
not-
communications, all of
Right.
our emails, all of our stuff like that, and she's accessing that at her house.
It's not like the chief was saying right there on the cybersecurity training.
And she's
It's
using
not a
her
personal-
computer and accessing.
It's not. This is not a personal. This is a city account. Yeah.
But I mean, it has all of our.
Yeah, but that's a whole different discussion.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, it goes to the competency of the role. That's what I'm trying to get to. You know, it goes to the competency of the role.
Because I got a text message Friday morning saying I'm sick. I got a text message Monday morning saying I'm sick. And then today when I came about 10 o'clock, she was leaving, and she said, I said, oh, you're not any better? And she said, no, I'm sick. So y'all are the ones that have to decide what you want to do, or do nothing, whatever.
I'm not 100% sure why. Why would she want this in open meeting and not be here to discuss it with us? I think that's really what kind of gets
so
me.
she can listen to the tape. Public Information Act, open meetings open.
That's right.
So if she, you know, we have to decide what's going to happen with her job. I mean,
There's something else I want to say. It says right here in her letter to y'all, or to Melinda and Mr. Boyd, it also says that, let's see. Okay, when I said I wanted a copy of my background check, she said I don't have one. She said that I sent the log. She said she got the log out and was going to the copier when I said, what is that? I said, it's the log. She replied, no, that, and pointing at the writing, which, when I was standing there the other day, the little square at the top, there was no writing at all in that paper. And I did tell her, you know, that you just altered a document. I mean, you don't go a year later and add something to the list of something that's already there. So I did tell her that you altered a document.
Well, that's not against the law. She created the document, she added a note at the bottom of it with an accurate date on it. So her handwriting on the document, it wasn't an attempt to make it look like that had been there for a year. She gave it the current date and signed it, and so adding that note is not against the law.
Okay, but she had told me that document came from Derek. So that was the
I'm
background check.
missing your point.
The background check came from Derek. The two little boxes that was Heather's and mine,
Okay?
that had came from Derek. So, because I asked her, I wanted a copy of the log of the background check that was done. I wanted to see it. So it should have been hooked to my candidate packet. She said she had nothing like that. And then when she got the paper to go do it, I said, "What is that?" And she says, it's the paper. I said, "What's all the writing?" And that's when she told me she'd wrote on it. And I did tell her, "You did alter it," because, I mean, in fact, when I seen it the first time, there wasn't nothing there. Then all of a sudden, kind of looked kind of fishy, because here is Heather and myself, but you have Kobe that's running. You have her daughter that was running. Where's theirs? You know? So, and then now all of a sudden, boom, Kobe appears. So, but her daughter, she didn't have to run her daughter because her daughter removed her packet. That was something else too. Shouldn't have never been brought out, taken out of the city. That's another deal, messing with the election. And her putting in here that it looks like to her, after your instructions, says, first she didn't even know about a log, so how would she know about the notation? And second, it would seem as though 2 council members has discussed this out of the office and against all prior instructions from you, Mr. Boyd, and you, Mayor.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say on the record, I've never discussed this with anyone outside the office, that I was having the discussion with Moira, she talking about the log, she was telling me about the background checks. When Brenda walked into City Hall, because did you say you had a meeting with Chief, right?
Yes.
Because you stood there watching Steven and the Chief on the camera because they were out back and you didn't want to interrupt them for maybe 30 seconds. She overheard the discussion. I never spoke with this about Brenda or anyone else. I was not, speaking with another council member. I will say, since she brought it up in this email, that earlier that week on Monday, I'd sent her an email outlining some things I needed done with the filing situation in the Connex, and she didn't want to do it. And so she sent me back a 6-paragraph email CCing Sue and the mayor on it. And I had to respond to her, take Sue off it, and say, please do not, start quorums in email or CC council members on things that I'm emailing you. So this is a very interesting take on the events that happened. And if I get offensive, that
would have
would,
been a quorum. If
yes,
she would have accidentally
Correct.
said, "Okay, sounds good," then that would have been a quorum.
correct. I immediately responded when I saw the email and took Sue off it and CC'd Melinda back in and said, let's not do that. So this is not, to me, an accurate depiction of any of the events. And I could sit here and nitpick it. We could sit here and talk about background checks. We can sit here and talk about all kinds of things. But I'll say this for the 10th time. To me, the crux of it is that every authority over elections above the city has said that there is only really one solution to this issue. And if there was another way to deal with it, I don't like terminating people more than anyone on this table at all, especially not in a small community like this. I'm not out to get anyone. This is not personal to me at all. My concern is, this is my first election with this city, sitting on this side of it. I want it to be run right. And now we have an open discussion and an open meeting outlining this whole thing that is an open record for anyone to see. So if after this date something else goes wrong, it is on record for the entire world to see that we have been recommended by every authority above us that there's one solution for this problem. And so not only will it be bad because something else happened this election, there's going to be no denying for anyone at this table that we were given advice and we chose to ignore it. And to me, I can't sit with that.
So, do we still need to do anything with the executive session as far as any of this?
Not unless Mr. Boyd gets to a point where he says he wants to go into executive
Let me
session.
go ahead and point out something legally in executive session, if we could go into one now, just very briefly.
Okay.
Do I need to
We're going to go
do the
into
camera thing?
executive session at what time, Sue?
10:11.
And this is only under section 551.071.
At 10:07.
10:11.
10:11, okay. under Texas Government Code Section 551071 to consult with attorney concerning limited legal aspects of election. We go back into special business agenda at 10:14. Those still present: Kobe Pruitt, Bill Turnipseed, Sue Powell, Heather Martin, and Brenda Milligan.
And city secretary.
Well, we're back in open session now.
Same one
so-
before.
I have one more thing to ask. Okay, it says also on this that she put this on here. In the interim, I request that these two council members be forced to make any request of me made public through the mayor. I no longer feel comfortable with them directly approaching me. What's that supposed to be? She should be here so I could ask that question. Because I have never threatened her. And how can she do her job for the city if I have questions? She can't answer me because I've got to go through the mayor in order to talk to the city secretary. No, I think that's a little bit childish.
What do you got, Mr. Ward?
Oh, if you're inclined to terminate the city secretary, and that's not a legal question, it's a management question, but it can either be done for lack of confidence, and that would require 4 yes votes from the council, but it doesn't require any special procedures. Or you could terminate for cause, and for cause just requires a simple majority, but if you terminate for cause, then you have to give the city secretary notice of the charges against her or accusations against her and an opportunity to come and be heard. So there hasn't been anything like that for this meeting. And so if you wanted to take action at this meeting, it could only be for lack of confidence with 4 yes votes.
Issue I have, it's undoubted. I would really like to know where she got the idea to begin with. You know, last year, whenever she did the checks on y'all. You know, I know I didn't ask for them. And I don't think I was one of them and asked Derek on you, Melinda. I don't know. If,
No, you weren't. Bill.
I
No.
knew I.
He named the 2 people, and it wasn't you.
I was pretty sure it wasn't me, but I wouldn't, you know, but
No, he
Derek, I
named-
didn't know what his.
No, he named the 2, and it wasn't you.
Cause I don't do stuff like that. But, you know, to me, it's a big training issue. Somehow she got the idea she's supposed to do it. And I probably didn't help her the other day when I said, well, if you gotta do them, you gotta do them, you know, but,
Well, and I told her I thought we always did them, so.
To me,
and we've only heard, you know, haven't heard from her, you know.
And that was my deal.
Yeah.
If she requested to be an open, she should have been here.
Well, so I understand she's sick, I don't.
Well, I'm sick too, but I'm here.
Yeah, and I'm sick too of a lot of things.
and you know, and I, like I said, I'm not saying that it's malicious, but I am saying that every authority over us, to them it didn't matter why she did it, whether it was on purpose, whether it was on accident, whether someone else told her to do it and she didn't do her due diligence to find out if she should take that direction or not. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because she did something that she shouldn't do that tampered with an election. And so whether she did it purposefully with some sort of intent or whether she did it, you know, out of ignorance, it was still done. And the recommendation is still that she not be involved in any future city elections or even have access to the documents relating to elections. And so at that point, you know, if they're recommending termination, I just can't go against what 3 different authorities have recommended to do. I just can't. I can't sit here with a good, clean conscience and do that.
So this is my take on it. My take on it is that I've known Maura for years. I've seen her daughters grow up in softball. I've known her and Mike for a long time, and personally, you know, my interaction with them in a public setting is a positive thing. You know, I like them, but we're talking about a job that she was set to do, a job that she has to be trained on, a job that she's been to training on. Whether she says in her email that she doesn't have effective training or not, if she felt like she didn't have effective training or not, she probably should have raised her hand and said, I don't have effective training. You know? I think that too many times we make decisions based on the person and not the action. I think the action speaks quite a bit of what happened in this situation, and I think that it could speak of what could happen in the future if it was continued to happen. I think that if we did a demotion and we had 2 deputy city secretaries, I think that there would probably be a little bit of ill will that would, you know, possibly put on another city employee. I'm not looking for that to happen either. You know, everybody's here to do their set job. You have a job, you have an employee that has been demoted for one reason or another, and they're still in the same office. They're still, you know, tasked to do the same job. And, you know, one of them could do it before, and now she can't do it. And I can't help but feel like there's going to be a little bit of a begrudging feeling for that, you know. And should the other deputy secretary have to deal with that begrudging attitude? I think now, if we had any kind of a hostile environment before, are we now creating one if we were to do that action? You know, I like her as a person. I don't like this as an action. I don't like that this is something that we assumed that this is what we did, so we just jumped and did it. And then we had a top of the ladder police official agree with her and do it, even though he probably should have never had anything to do with it. So,
And he possibly may have went to her to begin with and said, we've done these, we need to do them.
yeah.
We don't know that.
That's not what she told me. She told me the opposite.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, it's we're in that situation where she's not here to defend herself, and you have a firsthand account of a conversation with her, and we have your representation of what that is. I'm not so much basing my decision on that off of, you know, the interaction that you two had. It's the action itself. It's the common knowledge that we have been told now that that is not the appropriate
We
thing
have
to
her
do.
written account where she admits to having done the background checks, and we have the Secretary of State and TML telling both her and the mayor the same thing, which is, you know, so I mean, yeah, she's not here to give her account, but she gave her written account, you know, and none of it, nowhere in her written account does she say, oops, no, I didn't mean to say that, or I never said that I ran background checks. She says she ran the background checks. She gave me documentation that she ran the background checks.
I feel like that if we are good stewards, I feel like that if we are here set to do a job that we are supposed to do, I think that we should hold all people accountable for what they're supposed to do. And I think that people that are coming into any of these positions should understand that if you don't do your position that you're accounted to do, there will be consequences, you know. I really don't see, me personally, I don't see any other way other than termination around this. Because there was just too many ways out not to commit this. And now, not only was she not trained enough not to do it, as she said, she's about to do it again. You know, she's already committed the offense once, and now we're about to do it again. And it only came
She's
out.
following what she did last year.
But you still have to.
So let me ask you this. If we were to call Joyce Hubman in the morning and say, at any point in time in your class, do you ever talk about the fact that it is or not a good reason to do a background check on any incoming person that wants to be in an election? If she were to say, no, we don't support that one bit, then how is that a way out for Maura? Because she's attended the class that Joyce Hubman's been to, but she's also stated in an email they shouldn't have enough training.
But what was that class entailing?
But
How to
to
collect
me,
the
How to collect the
applications.
packet.
But if they're not instructing them in that class to do background checks, and then she does one anyway, then that has nothing to do with Joyce Hudman. That's not on the county or their training, because there's 10 million ways that you could do something, you know, illegal to do with an election or those packets, and you can't, you know, expect the county or any training to sit there and list off the 10 million things you shouldn't do with an election packet. Your job should be to follow the instructions you were given. No instruction that she was given at any time directed her to run a background check where there is no county, state, or city ordinance to do so, and no waivers signed. And that's all there is to it. You know, and when the Secretary of State is, you know, horrified and we're a topic of conversation amongst their legal counsel, and the county saying that's grounds for termination, and TML says that's grounds for termination, and people are saying don't even leave her alone with the packets. To me, that, you know, if we're being told don't even leave them alone with the packets, then how can you even make her a deputy city secretary? You can't.
Well,
and everybody's saying the long-term solution is termination, then I'm sorry, it would be really, really negligent of us, in my opinion, to not follow that advice. Because if something else goes wrong, and we've been told by every other authority that the only solution and way out here is termination.
I think that
And we choose to ignore it, then what?
I think that, Heather, what you're saying there, I think that that holds a lot of weight, but I also think that that's a conversation that you're having with people that are schooled in that. You know, they have specific training in that. And I think that if she's been through training where she's collection of packets, you know, explaining what you're doing with the packet information, and now we're going a step further and we're doing investigations on people, I think that anybody who's in that type of situation, if you weren't instructed to do that, if Joyce Hudman didn't tell you to do that, if you didn't go through a class that suggested that you do that, why are you taking the pro step to involve law enforcement in this process? What would make you think that that is a good idea?
And that's a question that Moira would have to answer.
Yes, I
But
really wish
I
that she
just-
was here to
I
help
wish
us
that she
with
was
it.
here too, but at the same time, I don't think that there's any answer that she could give us that would change the facts. You know, to me, this is beyond motive at this point. It's like, you know, if you are going 30 over the speed limit and you say, well, I didn't see the sign, it's not necessarily, you know, a defense. It is what it is. And
Well, do you need a motion? Well,
I guess that's what we need, Mr. Boyd, because I'm at a loss here.
That would be a lawful, I mean, you could take a motion.
Okay.
Well, I make a motion that we, I'm not for terminating Moira. I think she probably needs discipline, and I think we should bump her back down to deputy city secretary if the only options we have are either a long-term fix is to terminate or put her down to deputy city secretary. I will not. I will tell you right now, I won't vote.
I won't vote for fire. I'm sorry.
Because I feel like as a council, we didn't do enough to train her.
Okay, and I'm gonna say this, Sue. The only things that have come across my desk are to send her on training on elections was Joyce Hudman
Yeah.
and the one brochure that I got from the Rice University or wherever it was, I sent her to that one.
Yeah.
Now that I did. Okay, I cannot send her to any of the classes that are for city secretaries, that you have to be a member of that Saltgrass chapter, because you got to be a member of it for 3 years before I can send you to any of those classes. She's never come to me with anything else on elections, because whenever she said, can I go to the Saltgrass meetings, the one she went to, I thought was great on the Public Information Act. She even gave Mr. Boyd a copy of that book and sent it to him. Great. The next one was on Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
Not good for the city. And then they had the Christmas party was for December.
Yeah, I
And
know.
then there's not been anything else on elections that I could send her to.
But I'm not saying that you specifically.
No, I understand, but
But-
there's nothing as a council you could have sent her to. There was nothing.
Could have paid more attention to what she did last year, maybe, and asked her questions. But if she's following what she did last year, and last year was wrong, we should have corrected her last year. You know?
Well, I did ask a question last
And-
year whenever I saw the lady that I didn't know. I did ask the question, do you know that lady? And I was told, I've heard of her.
Who is
So,
the
I mean,
lady?
I did try to ask questions. I did. I was here all the way to the end. And I did try to ask questions. But I had no idea that there was a background checks going on. No.
Kobe just asked you a question.
Who was the lady?
That came last year, right
Well-
after you,
The one you're talking about, the lady.
her daughter.
What more is talking?
Oh,
She
you're talking
did
about
not-
Briggs.
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, I understand we need to ask questions, and I ask what I can ask, but when it comes down to the elections, she's, according to the state, she's the filing authority. The mayor's not supposed to be getting involved into that because she is the filing authority.
If we
If I
do
start
the,
trying to hamper it, then I can get into trouble.
I get it.
if
But-
we do the process where we have to notify her and we have a session where she sits in and we do question and answer, what does the vote need to be at for that?
Simple majority.
For 3.
We're gonna do that. We're gonna give her a chance to talk, but we're also gonna hold her accountable. That's exactly what
Okay,
any
but
one of
what
the
do you
others.
do in the meantime? You have to do something
In the
because
meantime, she can't be the
she
city
can't be
secretary.
she can't be
Sue made a
over
motion to
the
make
election.
her the deputy city secretary, which would mean that we would have to make Cynthia the city secretary.
No,
No.
a deputy who
They're
goes
both
to the
deputies.
training
They both be
and
deputies.
handles the election.
So at any point in time, do we ask
No.
Cynthia's?
No,
No,
there
what
has
the
to be a
state
city
says.
secretary.
No, what the state says is, for, their recommendation is for Moya not to handle this election this year. So to stop that, you move her down to deputy city secretary, then they are equal, and then you transfer the election to your
Other
other
one.
deputy city secretary, and she doesn't have anything to do with the election this year.
Right.
And at which
And
point
then
in
later
time,
on, you can move her back
You
up
can move
to
her back, get her
city
training.
secretary. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a better option than determination. Personally, I'll second Sue's motion. You probably failed, but that's.
Okay, so Sue needs to, am I right, Mr. Boyd? Sue needs to state it again because it needs to have like the election thing in there. Because I personally cannot just move one person over to the election. It has to be in the motion.
Right.
So,
Well, no, if we had two deputy city secretaries, the mayor could designate which one would do which things like that. But in this instance, it makes more sense to put it in a council action.
Correct, that's what he said. It requires an official action from the city council. That's what the man told me
Moving to
today.
deputy city secretary does.
And he told me moving the person that's doing the election, because you've already started with one person and then you're going to someone else, it would require an official action from the city council.
I'm not convinced that it would, but there's no reason for it not to.
okay.
So I'm saying, yeah, let the council do that.
Mhm.
If that's what the council wants
If
to
that's
do.
what they want to do.
Okay, so we'll reword my motion. I make a motion that we move Moira from city secretary to a deputy city secretary. And that for this election period, that Cynthia, who's currently the deputy city secretary, handle the election.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion.
By handle the election, you mean perform the election duties of the city secretary?
For the May 2020 election. Yes, thank you, sorry.
Okay, so I have a motion made by Sue Powell, seconded by Bill Turnipseed.
hold on, can we still discuss this?
Yeah, now we
Okay.
can have discussion.
All right, so we vote on this, all right? And let's say that hypothetically,
You know, she's moved to deputy city secretary, and we have 2 now. The scenario that I told you about as far as we have an investigation where she is here and we answer her questions, and we arrive at the termination and we vote on it. Are we getting rid of that possibility by demoting her? Have we chosen one over the other, or
No.
Yes,
are we still?
yes, because you have to have a vote on this. The
Right.
vote that's on the table right now is from Sue. Put her down to deputy city secretary and have Cynthia handle the election.
And that's it.
You
We're
got
not.
to address that. That's either yes, you're in favor of it, or no, you're
Right,
not in
what he's
favor of it.
asking
And then if you just, and then,
And if
then if you, it can be on the agenda again for termination.
that wasn't in the.
So that's how.
that
But
That's
wasn't-
how we.
that's how it would work, that's how it would work, you know, it doesn't take that off the table.
Cause,
This is a little bit different track, but this is something that's important.
mhm.
I'd recommend that you amend your motion to simply add that everything you just described is for the reason of lack of confidence and only. And I'd recommend that you amend the second.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm not recommending a change in the substance of the motion, but the motion should include the reason being lack of confidence.
So I think Kobe's question, and if it wasn't Kobe's question, then it's my question, is if we move Moira to being a deputy city secretary, are we still gonna come back at the next council meeting and give her the chance, the proper notice and everything to discuss termination due to costs?
This will not foreclose any options on that.
So we would still have the option to come back at the next meeting and to discuss this, give her proper notice and discuss this for costs?
Yes.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
That was my question as well.
My issue with the whole thing is that she wrote this for a reason, right? You know, all of this right here was done for a reason, and that is to speak her side of the story, which tells me she wants her side of the story heard. But at the same point in time, when, talk gets out, and it's going to get out, that we have somebody running background checks, whether they are allowed or not, how many people are going to be like, I want to be on the city council because, they do stuff they're not supposed to. I mean, how are we looking out for our citizens if we're not holding people accountable for their actions?
That's where he says you gotta take into that part that sounds. He didn't say tampering with government elections.
Sure,
He
yes.
just said sounds like that could be the possibility.
Right. And that's why, like I say, I have known her for a long time, and I have a favorable opinion of her. But at the same point in time, the action that is done here, deserves some kind of conversation. We need to ask questions. She needs to answer. At the same point in time, she needs to be able to ask questions so that we can answer. I think this needs to be fair all the way around.
Okay. So, Mr. Boyd, because right now we're only voting on moving the city secretary down to the position of deputy city secretary and a different deputy city secretary handling the election. That's what we're voting on right now.
Yes.
Not anything else. Not about another meeting or anything like that. We're only voting on this right now because
Right.
that's the motion.
But we wouldn't
So-
have to vote to put this on another meeting, correct? We just request that it's on the
You can
agenda.
just put it on the agenda.
Correct.
No, you either gotta vote for moving down or
I
vote
understand
no, okay? But he wants Sue to amend her, motion.
To say lack of confidence.
To add,
To specify that
for lack of
the
confidence.
cause of the action in the motion is lack of confidence. Or not cause, the reason for the action in the motion is lack of confidence.
Ready? Third time. I make a motion that, go slow, that we move Moira, the current city secretary, to deputy city secretary, and to have our current Deputy City Secretary, Cynthia, complete the requirements of the election for May 2020.
Wait, hold on.
And
hold
we're
on.
doing this,
Okay, so.
Wait a minute, let her finish her motion.
Okay, go, I'm sorry, go ahead.
we're doing this because of lack of confidence.
I'll second.
Okay, so now I have a motion made by Sue Powell, an amended motion, seconded by Bill Turnipseed. Now you can discuss.
We're demoting her.
If it carries.
If it carries, we are demoting her. All right. Do we have to discuss compensation? Does compensation change from one role to the next?
No.
Okay. Oh, I mean, everything's public record, so we have to be looking at, what is one role carry, what is the
There's
other
no,
role carry?
there's
No
no,
motion to do
no
that.
motion about anything about compensation.
Okay. I want to make sure that that's
Right, no.
something that
You
we
don't have anything-
discuss,
I didn't hear anything about compensation.
No, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, we're going from one role to another role.
But I have to go on the motion that was made.
She still has all the duties except the election.
She
So
did,
do the same, everything except this election is what this motion will do.
well, she will be a deputy city secretary. So that's what her motion is. And that's what's seconded. And you either say yes or you say no. That's the only motion that's on the table right now.
Okay.
And let me point out, it is a good idea to specify that the duties will be the same as she had previously, except for the election. But rather than bog down this motion anymore, maybe you could go ahead and debate and vote on this motion and then have another one to clarify that point about duties.
Okay, and even though, see, that's where I'm trying to ask because nowhere on our, well, I guess it does say duties and it does say, appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, okay. But it does not say anything about compensation in there.
Right.
Okay,
So we're just
so,
reassigning
okay,
the duties.
so, now we're ready, any more discussion? Okay, we're ready for a vote. All in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay, so,
Well, the motion doesn't carry because lack of confidence requires 4 yes votes.
I thought it was just for termination.
But you're removing the city secretary
Okay.
from the city secretary position to a deputy city secretary.
so it doesn't pass, Cynthia. Because it requires 4 yes votes.
Well, I'll make a motion that we terminate the city secretary due to lack of confidence.
All right, I have a motion made by Heather Martin.
Let me write this down. Okay.
Okay, I have a motion made by Heather Martin to terminate
The city
the city
secretary due
secretary
to lack of confidence.
confidence. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, seconded by Brenda Milligan. Now it's open for discussion.
So, I stated earlier that I did not see a way outside of termination. But I also would like to have a conversation with Maura with why she thought this was a good idea, why she was about to do it again.
She outlined that in her email as far as I'm concerned.
Well, right now, the motion is for termination, and Mr. Boyd has to take 4 votes for that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if that doesn't carry, then you can make a motion for the cause, correct? Am I writing that down right?
Yeah, and that takes
No,
3,
you
and you
can't
have to
because
have
you
a
have
hearing.
to give her
Right,
notices.
we can't, terminate her for cause. You can discipline her for cause, but you can't remove her from the city secretary position for cause without notice and an opportunity for a hearing.
Yeah,
And
that's,
she hasn't been given that notice.
Correct. Okay, because you can't do it and then come back and say, okay, now, here's your,
Say that again?
I'm lost a little bit. I'm
Okay.
trying to make sure that you can't vote, the majority can't vote for the cause and then have the hearing. You gotta give
No, you
the,
have
all
to have
the,
the hearing.
Right.
I have a question. The fact that she sent an email saying that she was aware the day that this was posted, that this was going to be discussed and on the agenda, that doesn't count as her being given notice that this meeting was happening and her choosing not to be here?
No.
Even though she put in writing that she knew that it was posted that day and she was aware?
She found out that this was going on, but no, she needs to be given a more formal notice for that kind of thing.
Okay, that makes sense.
and what is formal notice? What clarifies formal notice?
Just a letter or email to her, something in writing that says, here's what you're accused of. And that's the main thing that's missing from the notice that she received. But in any event, it needs to tell her what she's accused of and when the hearing will be, and let her know that she has the right to come and present her side.
We have a motion and a second.
okay, so I have a motion and a second for termination for lack of confidence, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so, all in favor? Okay, all opposed? So it's 2-3.
Okay then, with great reservation, I will make a motion that mirrors Sue's previous motion, saying that due to a lack of confidence, we are demoting the city secretary to deputy city secretary, and that the current deputy city secretary, Cynthia Sharp, will handle the entirety of the rest of this election cycle. But I wanted noted that I make this with great reservation against my better conscience and the recommendation that I've received from higher authorities, and that I am only doing this to protect the city's election cycle.
And does your motion include that Maura Ginther would still perform all of the other duties of city secretary?
Under the supervision of the mayor and with the understanding that at any time she could revoke any of those duties if she has concerns.
I like it.
I'll second it then.
Okay, so I have a
Second.
motion made by Heather Martin, seconded by Bill Turnsley.
No, Cody.
I mean,
Okay, I'm sorry, Bill, I thought I heard you over there.
I told him, he said he liked it, I said, well, you second it.
Oh, okay, well, I just heard that
I
word.
would have seconded it, I don't have a problem seconding it, but, you know, he said he
I just
liked
heard,
it.
I heard the word second, and I didn't hear the whole thing. Okay, so you got all that?
I think
Cynthia?
so.
I'm
Due to
sorry,
lack of
Cynthia.
confidence, the motion demote Maura to Deputy City Secretary, and that Deputy City Secretary Cynthia take over the election.
With great reservation and against the recommendation of the higher authorities that I spoke to.
With great reservation. And,
Against the recommendation of the 3 higher authorities that I spoke to on this matter.
And did you get the part about between the two deputy city secretaries that Maura Ginther would continue to perform the same duties as before this action, except for election duties?
Under the supervision of the mayor.
Right.
And with the understanding that the mayor could revoke those duties at any time.
hang on, let's get all this
I'm
in.
so
Yeah,
sorry.
that was all part of the motion.
I'm so sorry.
Would it be okay if I had her write it out?
I can write it out if you need me
And then that way,
to. And I'll read it
there
one
won't be
more time.
any,
I'm
there won't be
sorry.
any misquote.
That's right.
Okay, and she's gonna write it
Time
out.
to get off,
Okay,
Steve.
good.
49 minutes ago.
That's what I was thinking. Appreciate you staying.
Need to pass those out. She forgot to pass them out.
Don't bother me. Sorry. Man.
All right, let's see if I can do it the same way 3 times. Make a motion under great reservation that the city secretary be demoted to deputy city secretary, and that Cynthia Sharp, the current deputy city secretary, handle the entirety of the 2020 election cycle. Moira Ginther will continue all other duties with the supervision of the mayor and the understanding that those duties can be revoked at any time at the mayor's discretion. I make this motion with reservation against the recommendation of the 3 higher authorities that I consulted regarding this matter. I apologize for my handwriting.
Could you start it with the phrase "for lack of confidence"?
For lack of confidence. I make that exact same motion for lack of confidence.
I second it.
You want to put it on there just so the record will have that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Secure password, Blue Hamburger Movie.
Okay. Okay,
What is
Okay, so we have a
Hamburger
motion
movie.
made by Heather Martin, and you seconded the one she just read.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a motion made by Heather Martin, seconded by Colby Pruitt. Now, any more discussion? All right, now we're gonna vote. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, unanimous. Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting
10:53.
Okay, adjourn at 10:53.
Blue hamburger. Nothing's a pass.
Before you adjourn, is there any action about what to include at the next meeting?
Anybody got a motion?
I'll make a motion that we give them the proper notice to proceed with this for cause.
Okay, we're gonna give me another piece of paper, Cynthia. We're gonna make her
Well,
write this down.
That's simple enough.
Right, I'm just trying to help Cynthia out.
I'll make it, okay, write it then, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion, that we give Moira Ginther, the city secretary, the proper legal notice to proceed with this issue for cause.
I'll second that, since nobody else jumped in, we need, if we're gonna do it, we need to do it before she has notice.
And that's a letter, Mr. Boyd.
Yes.
Okay. And I'll write the letter and then forward it to you and then
Okay.
get your input and, or is that how you wanna do it, or
That's
do you
fine.
wanna do the whole thing, or,
Let's get on the phone and discuss the best way to
Okay.
do that.
okay? All right, so Heather, you wanna read it one more time? So, we need a second.
I'll make a motion that we give the city secretary Moira Ginther proper legal notice to proceed with this matter for cause.
And I second.
Okay, seconded by Bill Turner. Okay, any discussion?
On this hearing or whatever, is it in the executive session, or is it open?
We'll notice it in executive session, but she'll have the legal right to
Have it open.
require it to be an open meeting.
Okay.
Okay, you got it?
Got it.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion made